and welcome back to Crime in Sports.
Yay!
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmy. Yay indeed. My name is James Petrogallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmy Wissman.
Thank you so much for joining us today on our final part of Eamonn here, Eamonn Magee.
Yeah.
We're going to clean him up today, finish him all up, and polish him and shove him out there
Finish
to the
him
world.
off.
So there you go.
Clean him up.
Clean him up, fucking wipe the snot off his face and push him on out. So we got that. We're going to do a one-off next week episode, and then we're going to start a crazy series on a serial killer. So that'll be a lot of fun, too. And lots of fun stuff coming up in the future here for us. Before we get to that, though, definitely head over to shutupandgivememurder.com. Get all of your merchandise there. I mean, they have a really big variety of items.
Really
so
going,
anything you want, we got it there. So check that out. Also, get your tickets for Small Town Murder live shows in the fall and winter because they are coming up too, and a lot of them are selling out. So if you want to go, get your tickets right now. Shutupandgivememurder.com. Also, Patreon is something you want.
Oh, yeah.
Patreon.com/crimeinsports is where you get all the bonus material. Anybody $5 a month or above, you're going to get a shitload of content. You're going to have hundreds and hundreds of bonus episodes immediately upon subscription that you'll get to binge on, and then you get new ones every other week, one Crime in Sports, one Small Town Murder, and you get it all, everybody. So it's a lot of fun. This week, you're going to want to sign up for this week because we're going to talk about the Liver King.
Yeah.
That jackass. Yeah, we'll talk about the documentary and other stuff, too, not on the documentary. And just rarely is someone this big of a douchebag. And I really, he is, wow. He's
something special. Yeah.
Well, he's a wrestling character. That's all he is. And it's very silly. We'll talk all about that. So that's patreon.com/crimeinsports. And you're going to get a shout out at the end of the show, too.
Absolutely.
Jimmy will go ahead and fuck your name up for you. So that's no problem there. And quickly before we start, because this is the first Crime in Sports we've done on our new network here.
Yeah.
We've moved networks. So if you went, it's not on Wondery anymore and I can't get the Wondery Plus and the whatever, we're not on Wondery anymore. We moved along. No reason except just, you move along, different business opportunities, and that's how it works. So we're moving along. So there will be no more early access. All the episodes will come out at the same time. Everybody gets them at the same time. And honestly, we like it that way because it's just better for people to be able to talk about it. Yes. We had people fighting in groups, like Facebook groups about, that's a spoiler. Well, who knows? You should get the early release, and what the hell is wrong? And they would argue about it. It's like, let's just everybody get it at the same time. So it's much nicer that way. And we did
this to build a community. Now we have it, and we ruined it.
Yeah, it was split it up with the early release. We didn't like it at all. So we're happy to be back all at once. And we are working on an ad-free option. So give us some time.
There it is. Yeah.
We're working on it, and we're going to come up with something to be able to get ad-free content here for the easiest and, most affordable way possible. Right. So we're working on doing that. That said, let us get right into it here with part 5 of Eamonn.
Wow.
Eamonn Magee, and Jesus, he has been an adventure, this guy. Just a mess. From the start. From the very beginning, he's born into chaos, and his dad's chaotic, and his family, and the army, and the IRA, and it's been so much. It's been then him with his drugs and his fighting and drinking, and I've never heard of a boxer like drinking during training, and then smoking before a fight. Even in the 50s, the guys be like, I'm not going to smoke right before the fight. Not right now. After the fight, I'll have a smoke. But, beforehand, Jesus Christ. So we'll dive right into here and do this. We'll talk about a guy named Joe Clark with an E. Mm-hmm. Clark with an E here. By the way, when we left off, Eamonn just had a fight against Jimmy Bad Boy Vincent. Yeah. And he won in a unanimous decision. That was our last... thing that happened. Now, Joe Clark, we'll figure out where he fits into the story here. A little something from the book about Joe Clark here. When Joseph Clark was 19 years old, British paratroopers forcibly removed him from his parents' West Belfast home.
Wow.
It was just before dawn on August 9th, 1971. Operation Demetrius was the name of the deal here. Sure. And he was told, they had him, tied up and, everything and handcuffed behind the back and all that kind of shit. And they said, if you try to escape, you'll be shot dead. Okay, that's quite the threat. Yeah. So he was driven to a barracks in North Belfast where he was beaten and interrogated
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's nice. At one point, they put a black, heavy hood over his head and shoulders, and they put him in a helicopter. And he said, he felt it rise before an English voice asked him if he'd ever seen the footage of U.S. Marines pushing Vietnamese prisoners out of choppers flying over the South China Sea.
Oh.
So then he was shoved in the back and started to fall. But they said seconds later, all the soldiers were laughing and they hauled him into the helicopter. Basically, they hovered like 4 feet off the ground and shoved him out.
Why?
To scare him, to let him know they were serious. That's quite the prank right there, I would say. That's pretty
awful.
fucked up. Yeah, that's messed up. So they flew to a military base, and he was stripped, numbered, and dressed in a jumpsuit here, and they put another hood on him, and they put him into another room that had a really high-pitched, loud noise going on the whole time.
What the hell?
There, they put him in stress positions for hours and beat him when he would fall because, you can only hold yourself in stress positions for so long, which is the point of that. It's called torture, really, is what that is. It's like shit the CIA does in Turkmenistan when they fucking pull somebody out, they take them to a black site and do this type of shit. So at intervals, the hood was removed and he'd be tied to a chair and interrogated. But you couldn't even see the interrogators. They would be hidden behind blinding lights, which is really a terrible way to interrogate because people think that you go in there and if you just show them you mean business and beat them a little, they'll tell you what you want. But every actual interrogator goes, they'll tell you shit that isn't true. That's the problem. They'll tell you anything. You know what I mean? Remember in Reservoir Dogs when Chris Penn walks in and he goes, he'll tell you started the fucking Chicago fire if you beat him enough. What the fuck are you doing? That's a fact. Like the real actual way, and this isn't like some pussy hippie thing. This is Army interrogators say the best way to get someone to confess is to form a relationship with them. Get them to trust you. Get them to look at you as a lifeline and the only way out of the situation and all that. And that's how they talk to you, not scaring the shit out of them. That's not helpful at all. So, but I don't know why people don't like that. Like, in the 2000s, when all that torture stuff was happening and politically people were like wanting torture and all the people that actually do the interrogating were like, we don't want to torture them. It doesn't work. So you don't need to do that. And they're like, no, we're going to waterboard people. Just that's what the public wants.
I want to.
But they want them to suffer, though. It's like, but that's not how you get information from people.
Take it easy, Ajax.
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing? So anyway, they would after that, they would interrogate him and then they would give him, he wouldn't say shit. So they put the hood back on and put him into what they called the music room. And that was the loud, high-pitched noise. They did this for over a week. They gave him dry bread, water, and one bowl of cold, watery stew.
Ew.
Yeah, that sounds fun. He wasn't allowed to sleep unless he'd been beaten unconscious.
Right, yeah.
Which, I mean, at that point, you're allowed, I guess. Yeah.
It's like everything my grandfather used to threaten.
But they're doing it.
You don't fall asleep, I'll come in there and put you to sleep.
I'll put you to sleep. Oh, jeez.
Good night.
Don't give me something to cry about, too. Fuck.
Yeah.
Whatever you were lacking, they'd offer to fill it in for you.
Whatever they feel you're lacking.
I'll give you something to cry about. I'll put you to sleep. Yeah, that's what old people used to do, just threaten us with shit that we needed. So
complain about your food. Now you're going hungry.
Oh, man. So he would hallucinate, this guy. And because he was lack of sleep and torture and lack of food and everything, he believed at one point he was the bodyguard. We're talking Clark here, the guy in captivity, was the bodyguard of the British politician James Callaghan. And when not hallucinating, he figured he would die soon and everything like that. And, he said, they're definitely going to kill me. This is crazy. Then one morning he was dragged back to the helicopter, flown to North Belfast, where he was taken to the internment camp there and thrown in with a lot of IRA guys, basically. A bunch of people held without charges that were vaguely associated with the IRA, in their opinion. In the couple of years he was interned there, so they put him there for years, that's when I believe he met Terrence Magee, who is obviously Doc, Eamonn's father. So, but didn't know him or anything like that. So he met a guy named Jerry Adams, who was a giant guy, really big guy. And basically, he would be his... Who's the other guy in... There's Lenny and the other one. Who's the other one that Gary Sinise played in the movie?
I don't know his name.
You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what he became to this Clark.
Yeah.
Clark became to this big guy. His Gary Sinise, for lack of a better term. God damn it! Why can't I remember that? We all got forced to read that goddamn book and watch the goddamn movie. We all had to.
The other guy.
Yeah, Lenny is a term. It's a verb. You Lenny'd that thing. You used your fucking dumb strength on something overblown. So, anyway, this is how this is all going. He's stuck in here, and he remained close to all of this, and they got released finally. Then he was shot in the side by an official with the IRA in 1975, and his brother was murdered by loyalist paramilitaries in 1992. So, this Clark guy's had a lot going on here. So, I'll read from the book. They say Clark and 13 other men who suffered a similar fate at the hands of the British forces in the early 70s have been fighting for justice for 45 long years. Initial government denials and inquiry whitewashes gave way to hushed compensation packages, but financial reparation was never the goal of the 14 hooded men, in quotes. What they wanted was a declaration from the British government that their predecessors had used torture in their interrogation methods in Northern Ireland, and a promise that they would never do it again. So the Irish government took up the case in 1976. The European Commission of Human Rights concluded that the interrogation techniques used were a modern system of torture, in quotes. So this ruling was undermined a couple years later when the European Court of Human Rights downgraded the ordeal to inhuman and degrading treatment. Which, I mean, that sounds like torture, honestly. If they beat you unconscious and sleep
degrading
deprivation.
is one thing, but it's just torture.
Yeah. That did not necessarily amount to torture, it said in the ruling. It was an unfortunate ruling that the Bush administration would later exploit to defend waterboarding and Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo shit that went on. That was actually one of their legal, to the international community, that was one of their legal precedents was, well, they said that was fine. So why can't we do that? Why can't we do stress positions and all that kind of shit? So they said the 14 hooded men have never given up. Today, boosted by fresh evidence that emerged in 2013 with famed human rights lawyer Amal Clooney, we know who she is, George's wife there, agreeing to handle the case, the 10 survivors have renewed hope that they will live to hear the British government tell the truth. Okay, a little more. 2013 was a special year for Joe Clark for another totally unrelated reason. At the end of 2012, he bought a Euro Millions lottery ticket in West Belfast at a gas station near his car mechanic's garage that he owns. And when he returned to check the numbers the following week, he's told he won a share of the jackpot.
Hell yeah.
He won over 10 million pounds.
That's
Boom.
a lot, right?
It's a fuckload of money. $10 million ish. It's a lot of money.
10 million pounds?
Yeah, 10 million pounds. They want a fuckload of money.
That's us, right? that's $10 million, right?
It's like $10 million. Yeah, not us, but American money.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's
like
us.
the same as us with the pound, right?
Oh yeah, almost. Yeah, it was similar. It fluctuates. I was like, who the fuck gave us $10 million?
My brain can.
Yeah. Us. I was like, well, Jimmy, what have you not told me? Are they giving? What's going on here?
It's the same as us, right?
We go
James?
50-50, I thought. What are we doing here? What's happening?
They told me 10 million. They didn't tell you that?
Oh, man. Wow. We got to talk to the agent there. That's fucked up.
There's going to be phone calls made.
We are gonna make some phone calls over this, man. Well-wishers swiftly clamored to congratulate him on his deserved good fortune. He was well-liked in the community and known for charity work that included adopting several impoverished children from orphanages in Belarus.
He's doing what?
He's into charity, so he adopts poor kids from orphanages in Belarus, which is a shithole former Soviet country.
But they're probably cheaper kids than whatever's around.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's got to be much cheaper to feed them.
It's like growing a turnip. It's just low and slow, and you really don't. They don't need much. You know what I mean? They don't even need many nutrients in the soil. They just come right up. basically. So, yeah, he's getting. So the guy was like a nice guy, the type of guy who usually doesn't win the lottery. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
They said it could not have happened to a nicer bloke, was the general consensus. There was only one dissenting voice in the crowd, that of an ex-neighbor.
Oh, what'd they say?
Quote, Joe Clark is nothing but a coward and a scumbag. You know who's screaming that?
Who's that?
Eamonn. Eamonn, of course. Of course it's our guy. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
This poor bastard was tortured.
Yeah.
Fucking fought for years, got fucked over by international courts. He's a mechanic that does charity work and adopts impoverished kids and finally gets something decent to happen in his life. And he's like, hey, you're a scumbag, aren't you? Yeah, you fucking, what the fuck?
Couldn't be a less deserving person. Fuck him.
Wow. I was always wondering, like, have we found a bigger Irish asshole than Conor McGregor? Is this possible?
Yeah.
But I like Eamonn
more.
more.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't like, I kind of do. Yeah, he's crazy as fuck, but like if you said, who would you rather give 10 million pounds to, Eamonn or Conor McGregor? It would certainly be Eamonn. You know what I mean? Because he's going to have fun with it.
Conor would just give it to people in legal battles.
Yeah, he'd just buy weird suits.
Yeah.
And hire lawyers for sexual assault cases. Yeah. Beat up fucking NBA mascots or something. So March 2nd, 2004, this is where this all stems from, with Magee saying he's a coward and all this type of shit. This is from, March 2nd, 2004. Magee attacked by gang is the headline in the newspaper.
Yeah.
World Boxing Union welterweight champion Eamonn Magee's career is in doubt after having his leg broken in a brutal gang beating.
Oh, no.
And this is when he's finally making money as a boxer, too. So this is a lot of shit here. The 32-year-old Ulsterman was taken to the hospital with a compound fractures after being dragged from his car and attacked in Belfast. Wow. Promoter Frank Warren had expected to clinch a deal this week for Magee to take on former WBA champ Sharmba Mitchell. Magee underwent surgery yesterday and is expected to have another operation tomorrow. Wow.
Jesus.
His coach, John Breen, said it's a sickening blow for Eamonn. Now you wonder just what the future will hold. So, this is in Lagmore Dale is the neighborhood. Yeah. And it's described here in the book as a small and quiet cul-de-sac, the type of street where parents have no fears about letting their kids play out front unsupervised. There were several families living there back in 2004 when this happened, all with children around the same age, and they all talked, and everybody, it's like a cul-de-sac where they had like barbecues and shit. You know what I mean?
The suburbs.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. Through the kids, the adults became friendly, and soon they all were getting together and hanging out, and I'm sure getting hammered or whatever the fuck they do over there. So on one summer's day, a barbecue was in full swing when 9-year-old Eamonn Jr. showed up in tears. Okay. He'd been fighting with Joe Clark's son, and Joe Clark came out to break it up and allegedly threatened to hit Eamonn Jr. Okay. So, Eamonn Sr., obviously not having this shit.
We can fight.
I hit my own kid, not you.
Yeah.
I drunkenly beat my kids, not you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how this works. So, Eamonn went in search of Joe. He found him and threatened him, and I guess he didn't feel like Joe was fully chastened by this threat, so he punched him and knocked him to the ground with a punch. Yeah. And then Joe's like 50 years old at this point, too. It's not really a
boxer.
And this guy's a professional fighter. Right. So he said it was always a massive risk to use fists on anyone who had friends in the IRA, but time passed and nothing more transpired between Eamonn and Joe. Yeah. Then 18 months later, then during the winter, Eamonn, still buzzing from a party the night before, spoke on the phone to his mother, who had returned to live in Belfast by now. Isabel marveled that due to the shade her house threw over the Holmden Gardens, her front was icy white, while across the street was clear and bathed in sunshine. Meanwhile, in Lagmore, the neighborhood kids were busy making the most of the cold snap to build snowmen and, kid shit, throwing snowballs and all that kind of crap. A couple of direct hits soon soured the mood, and before long there was only piles of slushy remains where, they used to have snowmen there. It started to melt. The Clark kids felt they were the main victims in the snowy war and apportioned the blame to 12-year-old, how the hell do you say that? How do we decide that you say A-I-N-E? Ein?
Did we pronounce? Did we agree?
I don't know. I thought we did.
Ein?
I thought we decided something. Ein? I'm going to call him Ein.
Yeah.
Eamonn Magee. So Eamonn believes that Joe Clark and his wife never liked her. That's the daughter, by the way, or Ann.
Yeah.
Ann. We'll call her Ann. Because they thought she delighted in antagonizing their children. When Big Joe's daughters told them about their wrecked snowman, he marched to the Magee door to fucking yell at Mary, Eamonn's wife, about the kid's behavior. He expected Ann to be punished, and seeking to appease Clark and get him off the doorstep, Mary assured him that, yes, I'll punish her. That's not nice, and I'll tell her to be nicer to the kids in the neighborhood. But Eamonn was informed that his daughter was sent to her room, and he sent the kid to the room, gave her a slap, of course. You know, you got to hit your daughter, obviously.
Send her on the way, yeah.
You want to hit your daughter because you really want to condition them to that's what to accept from men. That's what you want. Guys,
comfortable with this. Yeah.
Never hit your daughters.
Yeah.
Whatever you like, this is one of those things that drives me nuts.
Pummel your son.
Your son, yeah, the most he'll do is kill 12 people. That'll happen maybe, but or he might just, turn it in on himself. But whatever you do to your daughter, that's what she'll seek out
That's
later.
what she's looking for.
Until she gets a bunch of therapy. That's what's going to happen. Literally, you want to beat her, you want to fucking diddle her. Guess what? You are setting her up for that forever. Enjoy, you fucking idiots. Yeah. I hate when people do that. They have no thought process of like, this won't have any consequences, I'm sure. I'm sure, fucking
That's
stupid.
Conditioning her to be a strong woman.
Yeah, strong woman who can take a smack and fucking go make dinner. Like, that's crazy. Wow. They said the fact that Clark had come accusing only Ann and none of the other kids who were just as guilty pissed Mary off, though. Finally, she said, fuck this, and Mary decided to walk over to Clark's to have it out with him. He's going to fight with him. Mary argued with him, but felt like she was shouted down and made to feel small. Now, meanwhile, Eamonn had gone up to his daughter's room to check on her, and she said, it wasn't just me, Daddy. So, she's pleading with him. It wasn't just me, it was everybody. So anyway, while this is going on, Mary gets home crying, sobbing about being insulted by Clark over there. Sure. Yeah. So now Eamonn's got a crying wife who's complaining that this guy's being mean to the kids and being mean to her and insulting his wife. And then he's got a crying daughter saying all this isn't. So you got a guy with a hair trigger anyway. This is not good, obviously. Yeah. We got some confrontation that's about to happen here. So Eamonn here storms over to the Clark house. So from the book, they say more than a decade later, memories of the next 3 minutes are hazy. But Francis, who came along with Eamonn, recalls Clark clearly anticipating a reaction after the words with Mary and standing in his doorway. When Joe's hand appeared to move toward Francis, the expected response duly arrived. Before he had a chance to react, Eamonn delivered a headbutt, which left Joe sitting in the snow with blood running from his mouth, tonguing a loose tooth. He fucking headbutted his mouth and fucking knocked the tooth out. Eamonn arrived home, suddenly and terribly sober, with a feeling of dread heavy in his stomach.
Yeah.
He peered out the front window and saw Clark standing in the street on his phone. Mary called a friend, also named Joe, from a nearby street, and he flew around to collect Eamonn. The plan was to drive him over to the relative safety of Isabel's house, his mom's house in the Ardoyne, but as they left here, as they're leaving the neighborhood, a car entered the area to pick up Clark. So Eamonn said, go, for fuck's sake, let's get out of here. And they left the estate and took a right on Stewartston Road. Then they took the first exit on Creighton Road and gunned it, and hoping to get away here and get on the freeway, basically, or the highway or whatever the fuck, motorway over there. So I guess apparently with the Blacks Road motorway junction in sight, the Clark car caught up with them, crashed into them. Yeah. They're doing car pranks.
Oh, boy.
Just some car pranks. Play with these fellas. They're doing car pranks now. Bashed into the car, causing a spin out, and then the car stopped in front of Eamonn's car. Now, Clark and the driver emerged out of the fucking vehicle with a pickaxe handle and a baseball bat in their hands.
Not good.
So Magee is screaming, fucking put it in reverse, get the fuck out of here. What are we doing? But the car wouldn't go anywhere because his friend is just sitting there in shock and can't do anything, which is horrible. So basically, they started bashing the car with the bat and the pickaxe handle and broke the windows, shattered them. Ooh. Then they reach inside, got the door open. So Eamonn, he said he thought he'd be a dead man if he let himself be removed from the car. So he leaned across and held on to the steering wheel. Yeah. So this is how this goes. So Clark eventually gave up on dragging him out of the car and instead set to work on kicking legs with the heavy wooden club because Eamonn's kicking. So he's going to just beat his legs with a club. Mm-hmm. So basically they were just bashing his legs with a club. From the book, it says, each direct hit splattered blood onto the road and emitted a sickening crunch of bursting muscle and fracturing bone.
They're blasting his legs. They're not just beating his legs.
No, this isn't, his legs was linguini, Rick James on the couch shit. This is.
They hit him so hard they exploded.
Yeah, if you bash somebody's legs as hard as you can with a baseball bat, that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Eamonn, convinced he was fighting for his life, didn't feel it, and was only when he looked over. No, adrenaline. He looked back at Clark. He noticed he could see straight through his flesh into his own splintered tibia.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God. And he said, "Look what you've done to my leg, you big bastard."
Yeah.
It's a mild way to put it.
Yeah.
He said Clark must have looked at the gruesome sight, must have interrupted his blind fury, for he immediately ceased the attack and walked back to his car. Yeah. So at this point, the guy who was driving still just sitting there. Yeah. And now he says, "Come on, you fucking bastard, close this door and get me to the fucking hospital. My leg is hanging off." So they pull up to the hospital. Eamonn's mangled leg fucking is hanging limply out the window. Mm-hmm. Just bones and blood flying. I'd like to be driving behind that. So they put him into surgery. He had compound fractures of his tibia and fibula and a shattered knee. Just his whole leg is mangled and destroyed. It's so fucked up.
Knee down.
We were just talking about a mangled leg, and this is exactly. That's so weird. Before we went on the air, we were talking about that. That's went on the air.
He's about to have a prosthetic. I know a guy.
Wow, yeah. There was heavy bruising all over his body, and they also discovered he had a punctured lung. So they must have got his ribs a little too.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he's just a mess. So the next day he was transferred to hospitals where specialists took muscle from his calf tissue and from his thigh and grafted it over the gaping hole in the front of his leg.
Holy.
And the pain, he describes it as a searing hot poker being thrust into his leg, only constantly. Mm-hmm. Just put it there and constant.
Over and over, yeah.
They said he hammered the button for more morphine, but it wouldn't. Nothing could fucking make it stop. He said it was so bad. So they called in a consultant, and they immediately diagnosed it's because he has blood clots now in his leg. That's the problem.
Oh shit!
So now they have to, look and do all of this shit and pull blood clots out of him. They were trying to pull him out. It's crazy shit. So the next day, Eamonn asked the surgeon, "What are his chances of ever fighting again?" And the doctor said, "Eamonn, I'm sorry, but I guarantee you that you'll never box again.
The fight now is for your life. Sir.
For your life and possibly to walk,
Yeah.
He said, Eamonn's head dropped, and the guy said, "And I have to warn you, Eamonn, you may not even walk again."
Yeah.
So, fighting is silly.
We'll talk about that later.
So for the first time in his life, he openly wept publicly. Eamonn's not a big crier.
No. It's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he told reporters that, they told me I can't do it anymore and I might not ever walk again. And when Callahan and Breen, his trainers there, visited, they found him agitated and just, not in a good state, basically. And Eamonn said, "Joe Clark's going to fucking kill me," he whispered to them. He said, "By the way, just so you know." And the one of his trainers said, "No, he's not, Eamonn. I'll speak to Joe Clark." Breen knew Clark personally, and to this day, much to Eamonn's chagrin, he describes him as a big gentleman. Mm-hmm. He spoke to Joe and managed to negotiate a truce If the two men stayed out of each other's way, then that would be the end of it, basically. Okay. There won't be any further retribution for whatever the fuck happened. Okay. Now, they said John was barely through the door in the hospital the following day when Eamonn asked him if he had spoke to Clark. He said, I have, Eamonn. It's all taken care of. Don't worry about any of that. But Eamonn kept worrying about it. He thought that maybe Clark would creep into the hospital and get him like, fucking Godfather 1 or something. Right, you know what I mean? Yeah. So or back to gemstones again, just knees and toes there. We got to worry about. So they noticed also, Mary said that she noticed a strange blister-like lesions appearing on his hands and feet. And they determined that it was symptoms of stress.
What was symptoms of stress?
The big lesions, blister lesions on his hands and feet.
His body's just presenting marks in stress.
Yeah, so much stress. Like his career's over. He's worried this guy's going to kill him. He's also, I'm sure. Die. The other thing too, I guarantee you, if he hasn't drank or done any drugs since he's been in the hospital, he's got withdrawals for all that shit too. I mean, he's an alcoholic and everything else. So. After surgery, it was caged in a frame with metal pins driven into place above and below the break. Later, from ankle to hip, the leg was cocooned in a plaster cast. The blood clots were a constant concern. He was in the hospital for over 3 months. Okay. And they told him that the protective casing must stay in place for 6 months before rehabilitation could begin. Okay. So he tells everybody his career is over. He said, I can guarantee you that my career is over, he told BBC Northern Ireland. 2 specialists have told me so. I have not gotten over it. I feel disgusted about what's happened to me. This week was to have been the best of my boxing life. I was about to sign up to fight Sharmba Mitchell at the MEN Arena. If I had beaten Mitchell, we were definitely lining up Ricky Hatton, and the winner of that would have become a very wealthy man.
Yeah.
He said, I want to stay in the fight game, maybe training or management. So he said, I broke both bones of the shin in my left leg. The bone is just lying there by itself with no skin or bone on it.
Oh, God.
God damn it. He said, they were looking to put me under anesthetic for 6 hours, but could not because I also have a blood clot on my lung. So they're going to take a different part of muscle out of my right leg, which means I'll only be under anesthetic for an hour, which is safer. It would be a life or death situation if I went under for 6 hours. So his coach, John Breen, said, I feel so sorry for him and I just can't take it in. It's hard to believe that he was being set up for some big fights and now they'll never happen for him. I don't think we ever saw the very best of Eamonn Magee, and now we will never see the best of him in the ring. He was a world-class fighter who feared nobody and could give anyone in the world a fight. It's such a sickening way for his career to end. Man, that is fucked. So
we might all know his name had it not been for...
Yeah.
An axe handle?
Yeah. They said at the end they beat him basically with a bat and a baton up to 20 times each. They hit him in the leg. So just imagine.
They had to hit him more than that, right?
A few good shots is all it would take, man.
Wow.
That is fucking crazy. Clark denies that because then they're going to charge him here.
Yeah.
They're going to try to charge Clark. He denies charges of grievous bodily harm, possession of a weapon, and damage to a car. Wow. Even though he did it in broad daylight in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Okay. So Eamonn didn't want to leave the hospital because he didn't know where to go. He didn't want to go across right in the same neighborhood as the guy he thinks is trying to kill him. So he didn't know what to do. And also life for Mary and the kids in the neighborhood hasn't gotten any easier either. So they had to pass Joe Clark most of the days and act as if nothing happened. Equally intimidating was the approach made by other neighbors when they presented a petition signed by all those in the area who wanted Eamonn and his family to pack up and get out. They brought a petition. Hi. Do you bring cookies with that? Like, do you put the petition, like, on top of a cookie bag? Hi. This seems very mean, but we've all gotten together and decided we don't want to live around you anymore. So fuck off.
Appreciate it if you left.
Yeah, appreciate it if you take your kids and
these
fuck
are
off.
for you. Eat them while you leave.
Yeah, this is good energy to pack with.
Eat them on your way out.
So while Mary looked in the estate agent windows, Eamonn took himself off to supplement his painkillers and blood thinning tablets with his own brand of illicit medication. This is good. This will be good for his recovery. One night he returned home in such a state of paranoia that he concealed kitchen knives about his person and gathered his family together to spend the night in a huddle on the living room floor.
Wow.
That's some coke behavior. Wow. The specter of a follow-up attack from Clark haunted his sleep and soon decided he couldn't live another day in Lagmore. He spent time with Hamill, with friends in West Belfast and in London. He also spent time with a woman named Maria McGill. Okay, talk about her. They first met at a charity boxing event in the Chester Bar in early 2002. At the height of his fame, he was there to hand out prizes and strike up conversations and bullshit with people, basically. So he did strike up a conversation with Maria. He claimed that he was separated from his wife at the time. So he and Maria left the bar together that night. And then Maria realized that Mary was not, they weren't separated at all, and they lived together and had kids and shit. So by then, she was in love with him, though. So there you go. It didn't matter. So they snuck around for a year or so. Eamonn spent shitloads of nights at her home because Mary never knew where the hell he was anyway. And he did all of that. It was only when Maria fell pregnant that Eamonn actually had to sit his family down and tell them the truth about what's going on. I've been having a secret life that you don't know about.
Torrid affair, yeah.
Wow. Mary was devastated, obviously, but she still loved him anyway. This is crazy.
Wow.
That's too much. Good Lord. So he officially moved in with Maria and her young daughter from a previous relationship, and it was in her home that he took his first steps back into his walking, tried to do all of that. Apparently,
first steps.
Apparently they didn't realize, all the specialists they all said maybe 50-50 that you walk again, and he was doing it well ahead of schedule of any possibility. So they said there are plenty of happy memories from this time, but the drinking, drugs, and gambling invariably ensured the good old days were outweighed by the bad. He was a good partner when he wanted to be, but he also was violent. And, there was gaps when he wouldn't show his face for days on end. Sure. And Maria knew that he would be back with Mary for a while, or maybe some other fucking chick he met. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
And this is what he did for about 10 years. So,
really?
Yeah, just doesn't care. July 3rd, 2004, here, he's, Jesus Christ, an interviewer met him in Belfast where he talked about his life and all that kind of thing. That was before all this happened. 2 months before he was due to fight Sharma Mitchell, obviously, he's getting his legs broken. He's had a rough go of it, basically. So he said, at this point, though, I'm 3 months ahead of where the doctor thought I would be. The 2 shin bones are healing. They were broken completely in half. The doctor said my cast would be on my leg for 5 months, but it was only on for 2. The doctor is amazed by my progress. To be honest, I'm amazed as well. I put my rapid recovery down to being so fit. Yeah. And that's true. That's whenever there's a professional athlete, you see a football player that'll break their neck, and they give them the prognosis and the
death sentence
of a normal person.
Yeah.
You'll never walk again. You'll do that, but they're not normal people. They're in a different level of fitness and everything else, and their bodies tend to recover very fast, and they do shit that you wouldn't understand. So a professional athlete, I think, is probably in the top 1% of physicality of people that
for sure.
So Barry McEwen, who is a featherweight champion, said Eamonn was on the fringes of being world class. Magee is a southpaw. His style is all about slick counterpunching. He draws his opponents in and then nails them. He's fast-handed, a sharp but not a devastating puncher, but he's certainly a forceful hitter, as he proved against Ricky Hatton. So his trainer said, I would say Eamonn Magee is the most gifted Irish boxer ever. The trouble is, Eamonn never really prepares properly for fights. The only way you'll ever get him to train properly is to put him in a monastery for 8 weeks. Put him with the monks. That'll do it.
Yeah, make sure there's nothing that can change his trajectory in there.
Yeah, he said, a month before the Hatton fight, I found out he was skipping his road work and that he was drinking. He's not dedicated. He could have beaten Ricky Hatton, but he just didn't try hard enough. And that's what that other guy, the McEwen guy, says too. He said he's had many good fights in the past, but he just hasn't made it work in the ones that matter. He didn't go for the kill against Oktay Urkel. Remember Cassius he went by?
Yeah.
Cassius Urkel. It sounds like a fucking Steve Urkel character.
Yeah.
He had the one where he played basketball and the one where he was like a ladies' man. This is the one where he's a boxer. Cassius Urkel.
Boxer, yeah.
So he said, I don't think his temperament has done him any favors. He's surly, truculent. He's a surly, truculent guy. Truculent. But he's a good thinker in the ring. He has a good boxing brain. If he hadn't such a tendency to hold back, then he might have had more success in important fights. So, they talk all about this stuff here. And, he talks about basically his whole history, talking about, getting stabbed near his jugular and all that kind of shit. He says that it's about boxing, quote, it's the only thing that I can make a real living from. And until I got out of here through boxing, I never realized there was a world away from the violence in the street. Sure. But let me tell you, boxing is the fucking hardest game in the world and the one with the lowest wages. It controls your life and the life of your wife and kids, too. They all have to look after you, mood swings and all. When you're trying to make weight before a fight, you're not a happy person. I would say that. Yeah, angry. That's angry. Yeah, you're fucking
hangry.
Hangry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting punched in the face and you're hungry. That fucking sucks, man. That's interesting. So they talked to Isabel. Isabel said, I've seen the inside. Oh, because they're talking about she attends all of her son's fights. She would always come. She said, I've seen the inside of a lot of toilets at fight venues, put it that way. Okay. Because she can't watch him fight. Remember? She goes to the bathroom. Yeah. But I'm not against boxing. I encouraged my boys to box, to go to the gym, because I wanted to keep them off the streets and out of trouble.
Sure.
So they run into another guy here as they're talking to Magee, and he says Magee sees one of his old school friends, Paul Savate, who runs his own barber shop. And inside the shop are photographs of Magee on the wall, and everybody seems to know Magee. And they talk about how he's a local hero and all that kind of shit, basically. And they said, one of the guys there said, will Eamonn Magee fight again? It's very sad what happened to him. The unfortunate thing is on the wrong side of 30 now. Time is not on his side. Yeah. Magee says, it would kill me if I didn't come back. So now he's thinking about coming back.
He needs to.
Yeah, he said, I'd fight anyone, I mean anyone, just to get back in the ring. Wow.
Whoever wants it, let's go.
Let's go. I'm not going to let what happened to me stop me from boxing again. Mm-hmm. I love the fight game, and I think this is the first time I can ever say that I've missed training in my life. I'm not going to end up in a mental hospital, as so many fighters have done. Okay. He said, as I leave him, standing up at the bar, watched by his minder, James, he says with a note of defiance, other people couldn't handle it the way I have. They'd just crawl up in a corner and die. I'm not going to. I'm going to get back in the ring, show him what I can do, that I can win again. Wow. Okay. Then December 22nd, 2004, he apparently gets the all clear to fight again. So it went from you'll never fight again to give it a year.
Never walk again.
Never walk again.
to see you in the ring.
That is crazy. Wow. So that's what he's going to do. So they said they've issued the British Board of Control, Boxing Board of Control, has issued a final medical clean bill of health for Magee to resume his ring career. Wow. That's crazy. He says, as far as Neil Sinclair, who's a guy he wants to fight, is concerned, I met him last week and he tells me he'll be back in the gym very soon. Neil is apparently ticking over with some training in the Monkstown Club gym. Until he proves to me he's keen to get back into the ring again, we cannot set up the Commonwealth fight against the new champion from Nigeria.
Sure.
So 2005 here comes along and he's ready to fight again. Everyone's calling him the Miracle Man now. He went from the Terminator to the Miracle Man.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is pretty fucking amazing. Not bad. He started pushing for a return, so they gathered several independent medical opinions and slapped the Miracle Man label on him and said, you're going to be fine. So, his trainers urged their fighter to take on a 10-round walk in the park to test the water, but he said, fuck that. I want to get right back into this shit.
Sure.
Yeah, set up a tomato can first to make sure. Remember when Tyson got out of prison? He fought McNeely first. He didn't go right to Holyfield. You fight some Irish guy you can knock out quick.
He beat up an Irishman who thinks he can rhyme.
Oh, God, Jesus Christ. If
His
you watch,
poems are amazing.
oh, they were fun. You should watch that fight, by the way, if you haven't seen it. It's
Again,
like 40 seconds long. It's not a long
quick.
fight. But the guy, he comes out like somehow he like erased all fear from him, and he said,
Yeah.
I'm going to go out there and exchange punches, and one of us is getting knocked out. And
Peter did, not
Peter
not
did.
Tyson.
No.
Yeah.
Tyson fought his normal fight, but Peter ran up to him and tried to exchange with him, which is the exact wrong thing to do. I mean, it probably
He tried
surprised
to run
him
up and sucker him, like how you'd expect somebody would have to
Yeah.
fight Tyson in public. Just run up and sucker him and run
in the
away.
chair. He tried to do that, but then stand there, and it
Yeah.
probably, and to his credit, it probably
Mm-hmm.
surprised Tyson for about a second and a half. And then he was like, awesome, I don't have to chase this guy. I'll just pummel him since he's in front of
He's
me.
gonna come to me.
Oh, and he's way less of a good fighter than I am. Way less of a
and he can't take a
skilled
punch.
fighter. Yeah. Holy shit.
Boy, I wonder if Peter McNeely is okay today.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. I wonder if he's healed.
I don't think he ever was. He was always a little. Then he got to
little
do
dumb,
stuffed
yeah.
crust pizza commercials. Remember
Yeah,
where
where
it hit him in the
pizza
face
knocks
and
him
he'd
out.
fall
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So
Fucking
at
Pizza
the
Hut.
aim,
Was it? I think it was Little Caesars. I think it was Caesar Pizza.
I thought it was stuffed crust pizza.
Yeah,
could
but
be
I think it
wrong.
was. I think it was Little
They didn't
Caesars
have stuffed crust
Didn't
back
they?
then, did they? No, I think
I
it was
don't know.
Pizza Hut. I'm not sure.
Maybe
though.
it was, or was it the Bigfoot pizza? I don't
Look it
know.
up.
I
Look
just-
it up. We got.
He spun it. It hit him in the jaw, and he went down.
He went down. Yeah.
It had to be stuffed crust because that's why he spun it, was to eat
To get the crust.
first.
Yeah.
right.
It hit him in the face. It
Every
has to
Pizza
be.
Hut.
Yeah. So Eamonn, basically, he's still a champ. That's the thing. He still has
Yeah.
a belt. But
Yeah.
now they tell him he has to defend it by March or lose it. Now, he was planning on surrendering it anyway, but now he's like, fuck that. Let's fight by March. But he needs to
Yeah.
fight a ranked opponent to satisfy what you need to
Yeah.
do, what, defending your championship, quote unquote, is actually here.
Yeah.
So they nominated Alan Vester, who is an
Oh.
ex-IBF Intercontinental Champion and world title challenger here. So he's set for an amazing return. All of the newspapers have all these headlines. The Miracle Man.
Yeah.
He's set for everything. And oh my God, Magee said, the doctors told me I wouldn't be boxing again. And at first I didn't think I'd get off the crutches. I could not even get out of bed for 5 weeks. So I got so much support. I became determined to prove everybody wrong. Oh man. So here he is. He said, my doctors have done an amazing job, so much that I no longer even feel pain.
Is that right?
Wow. Now I just want to fight on for as long as I'm able to, because I've been boxing since the age of 5, and it's the only thing I know. So he's ready to go here. And let's see here. March 13th, he makes his final steps in an amazing comeback, this article says.
Sure.
They talk all about this. And March 18th, 2005, versus Alan Vester. He's hit by a truck and dies. Wouldn't that be a terrible ending if he just got hit by a truck out of nowhere and died? The truck didn't hit him on purpose. It wasn't an old beef or anything. Just some guy wasn't looking, who was texting on his phone, and Eamonn was looking the other direction, and he got hit by a truck. No way. This guy's going to be like, blown up by a revolutionary or something. Like, it's the only way for him to go out is if he needs to be exploded when he goes, because nothing else will kill him. So he fights Alan Vester. He's 25-5-1 coming into this fight here, Alan is. And he's a contender,
Right.
a former champion, and this is a 12-round title fight. That's his first fight back. And this is interesting here. So he said, this is from the book, from his sock, he pulled out a betting slip on which he had wagered 100 pounds on himself to stop Vester in the third round at odds of 12-1.
Awesome.
Okay. He spied Eubank at ringside, upright and applauding heartily. Eamonn dived between the ropes as Eubank warned him to take care with his new 3-piece tailor-made suit. Magee grabbed the ex-super middleweight king in a bear hug and held on tight until the Savile Row fabric had absorbed at least a pint of his sweat.
Whoa.
So this fight, by the way, Eamonn bet on himself 100 pounds for a third-round knockout. Third-round TKO for Eamonn.
Oh, boy.
He said, third round's a good time to do this since I bet on it or not. Boxers are allowed to bet on themselves, too. That's the weird part. It's not like baseball or football.
They can
bet
bet
on themselves.
specific like that?
They can bet on themselves all they want.
Fuck.
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather did it all the time.
Betting specifically on himself.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I guess it's as long as you don't
going
bet
the
on yourself to
distance or-
lose.
Yeah, I guess. But betting on yourself in specific round
that's crazy.
That
seems a little weird, right?
Illegal? Yeah, I don't know.
Man, that is crazy. So Eamonn was calm and measured as he sat on the ring apron and answered questions. He dedicated the victory to all the doctors and nurses who had treated his leg.
Yeah.
Which he should. He owes those motherfuckers here. And promised that he had much more left in the tank before he's ready to retire for real. And he said, I just can't walk away from a game I love so much.
Sure.
But then for the rest of 2005, he doesn't fight anymore.
Okay.
They talk about there was fights being talked about with 3 different guys that never really materialized. Okay. And finally, in October, a deal was agreed to fight, Mirdud Takalu? How the fuck do you say? Mehdud? Merdud? Merdud?
D-U-D?
D-U-D. Dud. Merdud Takalu in London.
Uh-huh.
But a month later, Eamonn demanded more money, and the bout was scrapped. So,
okay,
it's weird here. He's got a fight, by the way, here, and we'll talk about this. Outside the ring, Magee continued to live life hard, seemingly content on confirming people's worst expectations of him, rather than seeing this as like a new.
Yeah.
You know, he could have died, and he could have definitely not been able to walk again, and he could have not been able to have a career again. And instead, he's so lucky, and he's not taking this as I should,
It's like a sign of like
I should chill the fuck out. Yeah. No. During a long weekend in Costa del Sol, I think that's Spain, he and his mates were tossed out of 4 hotels in as many nights.
Wow.
In one, a departing group of English lads gifted them a bundle of fake 50-pound notes that soon led to the local police ransacking the rooms and dragging a couple of the party to the station for questioning. They're using counterfeit money. Yeah. That's not good. On their 50 euro notes, sorry. On their final night, Eamonn found time to reacquaint himself with the Spanish taxi drivers, with whom he's always enjoyed a hate-hate relationship with. Remember, we've talked about that.
Right.
When one mistook Magee for a harmless drunken fool and attempted to overcharge him by about 30 euro, then pulled a telescopic baton from his glove compartment in anticipation of battle, Eamonn had his first fight since Vester, and this one certainly didn't go 3 rounds. The cobblestones were still splattered with dark bloodstains when he passed the spot the next day on the way to the airport. He beat the living shit out of a Spanish taxi driver.
Right.
Yeah, that's not going to help you, a baton against a professional fighter. So 2006, he starts here. Eamonn's public persona is still what it always was at this point. He's the miracle man, but he's quickly kind of, they're going, oh, he's still a jerk-off, though. You know what I mean? One of those deals here. So they basically, the Magee story, the Telegraph, the newspaper, was moved to create a new honor, and they called Eamonn on stage to present him with a Special Achievement Award in recognition of the heart and mental fortitude he displayed to come back from life-threatening injuries and retain his world title. It is impressive.
It is, yeah.
Especially if he's not even, doing all the things he needs to for his health.
Sure.
They said, as the great and good of Northern Irish life rose to applaud him, he semi-consciously lifted his trophy and felt as proud as he ever had when a new belt was placed around his waist in the ring. Just as proud. So Eamonn behaved himself that night, but it sparked a month of partying from which he was never sober, basically.
Yeah.
Just a month of Chris Farley living, like crazy shit. So his 4th child and his first with Maria arrived during this period, and Eamonn stumbled into the hospital and attempted to pour a tin of cider over the newborn to wet his head.
Uh-huh. Okay.
He's going to christen him with booze.
Yeah, he's going to bless this child with cider.
You're officially a drunk now. There you go. All right.
You're Irish.
You're Irish. It's in your heritage, son, lad. So, oh, my God. They said Maria here, during this, Maria blocked his path and then didn't see him again for a week. So he came to pour booze on his head. Maria said no, and then he didn't show up again for a week.
Fine, fuck you.
Wow. And then he came home and picked up one of the congratulatory cards on the mantelpiece, looked at it, read it, and looked at her and said, so you called him Ethan then, I see.
Yeah.
He just found out what his son's name was a week later.
What the fuck? You poured booze on him. You didn't even know what it is?
No, you got to christen him something. She said, yeah, well, you weren't here, and I had to put something down for the birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I told you I wanted to call him Marvin after Hagler.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, well, he's a great fighter, Marvelous
Yeah,
Marvin.
but he's going to name his kid. That's nice.
Marvin's not a great name, but Hagler's an amazing fighter. One of my top three all-time favorite.
Name him Hagler. That's a cool name.
Yeah, who knows? People just say it's Irish. People go, oh, okay. Yeah. They don't know. A little later, Maria did go back and amend the record so that her son's official full name is Ethan Peter Marvin McGill.
What the hell?
Stuck a Marvin in there. Okay, March 2006. A criminal assault trial born from the whole Clark situation here. Throughout his own case, Clark's defense counsel had focused on the fact that Eamonn had thrown the first physical blow in the confrontation. Their goal was to turn the tables and present Clark as the victim and Magee as the attacker. Well, when you crash into a car to get it to stop to beat someone with weapons, you can't really say that was a part of an ongoing.
Yeah,
yeah, that doesn't work.
It's kind of assault no matter how you shake it.
Yeah, Clark had already pleaded guilty to inflicting grievous bodily harm, possessing a weapon, and criminal damage to his car, and received a suspended 3-year sentence for it. Mm-hmm. Now, Eamonn had to answer before the court on charges of his own. The uncertainty provoked sleepless nights in which Eamonn was tormented by visions of jail time and the end of his career. So it was a huge relief when he was cleared of all the charges against him and declared free to continue the rebuilding process. Right. The next day, he signed a contract to fight Takalu in May. Okay. Here we go. This is kind of how it starts to slide away here now. They said from the book, it was a decent run of positives by Magee standards, and Breen, his trainer or manager or whatever he is, hoped Eamonn would enter the gym in a frame of mind conducive to working to squeeze every last drop of potential out of him, since he's getting older now. He needs to train harder. The Iranian-born Takalu was a decent operator. He'd beaten Jim Rock, dropped a decision to Daniel Santos for the WBO super welterweight crown, and twice won the WBU title. But he lost that WBU crown when Wayne Alexander knocked him out inside of 5 minutes, and Magee had subsequently sparred enough rounds with Alexander in Breen's gym to slip into a false sense of security that he could whoop this guy's ass because he beats up the guy who beat him up. That doomed mindset was compounded by the fact that Eamonn's heart just wasn't in it, really. He'd say it was, but he just knew that, he just didn't care anymore about boxing. He was pushing 35. He's fought 3 rounds in 2.5 years.
Right.
That's all he's done. And, he said so that, he's running on fumes, basically. So they said fitness, sharpness, conditioning, weight, everything suffered as a consequence. After an open training session, he was asked to pose in the ring for a photographer. With sweat dripping off him, he stared into the long lens and waited for the flash. The next thing he remembers was rolling out under the bottom rope and wavering dizzily across the gym floor. The photographer said, Eamonn, are you okay? He said, yeah, of course I am. What do you mean? They said, you just collapsed.
Yeah.
You just fell down when I took the photo. And he said that he has no memory of that. He doesn't know what you're talking about.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. He said, no, he said, I've never felt better, is what he said.
What the hell is that about?
Yeah. Very strange. So real weird. He said it basically translates to, okay, yeah, get out of here, because he said, I've never felt better. They're saying basically that means, fuck off.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said he knew he wasn't right, though, and he knew the photographer wasn't making up the stories, but he had to keep going and just whatever. So sure. May 20th, 2006, he fights Takalu. The Margate Rock is his nickname.
Sure.
Wow. His birth name is Merdud Takalobigashi.
Mm-hmm.
Takalobighashi.
Don't know.
Yikes. Holy shit. He's 24-5 coming into this fight anyway.
Okay.
And here he is. He looks very happy for a boxer. Look at him.
Very smiley, yeah.
Hi.
Sweaty and everything, yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
very
hello.
wet and happy.
No shit. So anyway, during this fight, by the halfway point, Magee is already behind and breathing hard and not doing well.
Uh-oh.
He argued with his trainer in his corner. He told him, I'm up 4 rounds. I'm good.
Okay.
The trainer said, no, you look like shit, and you need to fucking do something here.
Yeah,
you know what I
you're
mean?
losing. Yeah.
He said the other guy is doing more, basically. That's the way it is. So only in the championship rounds did any action worthy of a championship fight break out, but for Magee, at least, it was too little too late. So they said the ignominious display demanded the derision it received when all involved were put out of their misery. The first first ringside judge scored it a draw. The second had Takalu the winner by 2 points, and the third gave the fight to Takalu by 4 points. So split decision.
Right.
And Eamonn loses.
Yeah.
So now he's 26-5.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, in the press, he said that I was the champ and I thought I did enough to keep my title on a decision.
Right.
He said that the challenger didn't do enough to take it away from me, but he's obviously embarrassed.
Sure.
You know, he just lost and talked all sorts of shit and everything else. They said as he spoke, the reporters could smell the drink on his breath and see the remnants of the previous night's cocaine in his bloodshot eyes.
Oh, boy.
And yet the old routine predictably and depressingly worked. Within months, the BBBOC, that's the Boxing Commission of Britain there, had installed him as the mandatory challenger to the British welterweight champion Kevin Anderson. While he waited for the contracts to be signed for that one, he fought on a meaningless 6-rounder here in a hotel in Letterkenny. Okay.
Canada?
Yeah, I know. This is Ireland.
No, that's in Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, I think they named that one's named after that one. I think. So.
Right, probably so.
He fights Janos Petrovics, who's 9-4 coming into this fight. He will finish up his career 25-94-2.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
He's gonna after this fight, he'll lose 90 fights from before this fight.
Why do you
on.
do this, man?
Holy shit, man. I would love to know that. Just what makes you keep going. Not a lot of people show up to see this. It's at some shitty hotel.
Yeah.
The book says few were there to see it, and even fewer cheered when he left the ring a points victor over Janos. It's a 6-round fight. He wins on points.
Shit.
As an indication of the standard of test the Hungarian provided, Petrovics would go on to lose 85 times, which is not, he came back and lost 94, 21 by knockout in his journeyman career. Even so, that was apparently enough preparation to propel Eamonn into a clash with Anderson, a fresh champion who's 12 years younger than him. 27-5 he is now. May 11th, 2007, Kevin Anderson, who's 18-1 coming into this fight, he'll finish at 20-3.
Okay.
When he's 18-1, I doubt he thinks he's only going to fight 23 fights. You know what I mean?
Something's wrong, yeah.
Yeah. This fight here, it said it was Anderson's peak of his career, basically, and Eamonn is on the downside of it, obviously. So
for sure,
so this fight is going to go all 12 rounds, and this is a unanimous decision loss for Eamonn.
Okay.
And it's not even close. The judges have it 117, 110, 118, 111, 119, 110.
That's bad.
Hey, they are the most. He won 3 rounds. A beating. They said the fight was what it was, a decent domestic scrap. That doesn't sound good.
Nope.
No. That's interesting here. As the young champ's early vigor waned, the wizened challenger's greater ring prowess began to reap some reward. An argument could be made for Eamonn winning any or all of the rounds 7 through 10, with the 9th in particular standing out as one final shining beacon of the extravagant gifts God had seen fit to bless him with. Problem is he's getting old. So as he sees the upper hand, there was a distinct lack of conviction in both his demeanor and gait. Magee was always a relaxed warrior, but as he sat slumped in his stool between rounds, there was an indifference in his expression that betrayed the futility he now saw in this savage show, which he was playing a leading role. He bickered with John when he was told to get on his front foot and win it. Eamonn said back, sure he hasn't laid a fucking glove on me for about 5 rounds. She's like, I'm winning. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, you need to go do shit. It's the same thing every time. So he said, fuck it, he thought, and went recklessly toe-to-toe in the 11th. And, it didn't quite work
Knocked
out.
out?
Here. No. It was a decision in the end. But,
Okay, all right.
yeah. They said that with 45 seconds left in the final round, he set himself to throw a heavy right hook, but was thumped mid-execution by that same punch coming in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
In his 200th professional round, something other than the soles of Eamonn Magee's boots touched the canvas for the very first time. So he finally got knocked down once.
Right.
Embarrassed, he sat there for a moment, then applauded and smiled. It was genuinely a sad smile in which he forced a degree of mirth through gritted teeth. He looked over to John. Fuck me, he muttered to himself.
Yeah.
That was his career over, but he still had 3 minutes and 45 seconds to go, and he did that. So he tried to fight through it, but he lost, and he's 27-6, and that's his last fight. He's done.
Uh-oh.
He is fucking done. And of
And
course,
he's got no money.
no, that's the problem. He was at the cusp of making all this money and never quite got there.
Dang it.
So the book talks about his retirement and how, a lot of athletes struggle with retirement. It's just your whole life since you were 5 is different now. That's weird. Most of the time you go to school and then you figure out what you do and your life's broken up into parts.
Yeah.
For a pro athlete, there is no parts. It's all sport from the time you can remember to now you're 36 and you don't know what the fuck to do with your life.
Best
so
of luck.
yeah, it's weird. So they said, having devoted the vast majority of their lives to such an all-consuming vocation, it's very tough to walk away at what tends to be such a relatively young age. In the weeks and months and years after their final appearance, they miss desperately the discipline and structure of training, the adrenaline and thrill of performing, and the adulation and confirmation of self-worth derived from winning. Some feel they can't do anything else and they have nothing more to offer the world. They feel unprepared for life, unqualified to survive beyond the confines of a passion that's been their oxygen supply. Yeah.
Right.
He accepted his fate, though, they said, before even the fight was over.
Really?
Basically, when he was sitting on his ass, he's like, that's it, I'm done. When he got knocked down. Mm-hmm. That's it. He's been fighting for over 30 years, and that's about done. So back in the Erdogan there, where he's from, his dad, Doc, has had cancer, as we know.
Right.
And apparently they had to bring a hospital bed in the living room for him and all this type of shit. It's not good here. Then on July 31st, 2007, his dad died. Uh-huh. Eamonn was diagnosed as having depression around that time, which obviously. But he knows that he said he'd had depression his whole life. It was the same feeling. He just finally went and got checked out for it. Right. He said it isn't the type of thing that just appears from one day to the next. It's something that creeps up on you gradually. You don't need a doctor to tell you. You sense it yourself. And anyone that's had the life I've had is going to struggle with things like that. I would say, they said he tried a variety of prescription drugs to keep it under control, but he admits that he never followed the doctor's orders when it came to medication.
Really?
Yeah, well, he's going to drink, too. That's the problem, and that's going to ruin it all. So at times, he'll give a course of antidepressants a chance, adhering to intake guidelines until the drug can take effect. But the first sight of an adverse side effect, the prescription goes out the window, and he's not doing it anymore. So one pill was dismissed when it caused a loss of balance. Another when he woke in the exact same position in which he had fallen asleep, suggesting that he was almost comatose. That sounds great. That sounds wonderful. I love that. What is that? Put that shit in here. Tell me what it is. Yeah. I'll get some. He likes to have a supply of diazepam close on hand, but he only takes it when he's feeling himself getting overly anxious or agitated. So, yeah, not good here. John Breen, his buddy here. We'll talk a little about that. They said it's impossible to articulate the bond that 20 years of ups and downs have forged between Eamonn and John Breen. But from discussing it with both men, it soon becomes clear that what they share goes beyond the reach of traditional attachment of a long-term fighter-trainer relationship. They said occasionally, never in each other's presence, their masks slip. And in those moments, the depths of feeling between the pair is unmistakable. Eamonn would lie down in traffic if it would somehow protect John, and vice versa. Eamonn has effectively done so on more than one occasion. For years, John ran a security business providing bouncers for bars and clubs the length and breadth of Northern Ireland. which is good. He knows a lot of tough guys. He's a boxing trainer. So he'd often offer his up-and-coming fighters a few extra bucks to work a door somewhere on a Friday or Saturday,
Oh, yeah.
which, yeah. So they said it's perfect symbiotic relationship there. So in Northern Ireland, they said, you know, that you're going to come into contact with a criminal underbelly, paramilitaries, drug dealers, things like that.
There you go. Yeah.
They said with the latter, the approach was simple and unequivocal. Drug dealers caught on Breen's shift were promptly handed over to the police. This led to decades of threats on his life from various sources, threats serious enough, some of them, that the police installed a panic alarm in his house and issued bulletproof attire for him and his bouncers.
Good Christ,
Gave him
really?
vests. Wow. Even when he was earning enough in the ring to not need the cash or hassle, Magee would regularly strap on a vest and stand alongside his trainer. Breen's beat covered the now-closed Arena nightclub, the biggest such venue in Northern Ireland. One night, as the thousands in attendance began their chaotic, drunken 3 a.m. exit, a massive brawl erupted, and the security staff were soon sucked into it. The fight spilled into the car park, where a couple of the main protagonists suffered a decisive beating from several of the bouncers. John broke it up as soon as he suspected his guys were a little overzealous in their handling of the situation, but the damage was done. A few days later, he received word that the two that were beaten were connected, and they'd be back for revenge the following Saturday, this time with paramilitary reinforcements. So John immediately paid off the door staff involved and told them they'd never work for him again. Thanks a lot for beating up Irish paramilitaries. He then started calling around, trying to get in touch with a senior provo who would have the authority to end this before it got out of hand. It's like a mob situation. Like, who do I know? Do I know anybody who can talk to anybody and squash this? But the weekend arrived, and he still hadn't been able to get through. So finishing up at the gym that Saturday, Eamonn no longer working doors now that he was operating at a world-class level as a boxer. Eamonn said, "Here, John, are you working at the arena tonight?" And he said, "I am, yeah. Why do you ask?" Eamonn said, "I've to meet a girl down there. I met her a few weeks ago, and I'm taking her out to dinner tonight. Can you give me a lift?" He said, "Sure." So he said a few hours later, they were both stood outside the front doors of the arena. Breen was a little more surprised to see Magee sporting smart black trousers and white shirt ensemble, and even more shocked that he wasn't drinking. Eamonn explained that he was taking this woman to a fancy restaurant and didn't want a smell of booze when she arrived. And that was plausible, they said, so they just stood there together and waited. They said, "Where's this date of yours then, Magee?" He said, "I don't know where she's got to. I don't know what's going on." They said, "Well, give her a ring for fuck's sake." He said, "I left her number at the house." Finally, around 10:30, he said, "She must have stood me up, this bitch. I may as well," that's what he said. Yeah. "I may as well just hang around and get a lift back up the road when you're going home." So then John said he looked over and figured it out. He said he was never on a date. He was coming with him to protect him.
Oh.
He didn't want to. He knew if he said, "Hey, I'll come stand by you and protect you," this guy would say, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
So he said this was the way he could do it and not make him feel like a pussy, like he was trying to, protect a pussy. So John said, if Magee is with you, he'll die for you. That's nice.
Yeah.
So he started training is what he's going to do here.
Really?
Yeah. Breen welcomes him in as a trainer. Just by his reputation and resume, boxers respect the fuck out of him. They know he's a great fighter. So they want to see him do it. So there he goes. He's going to start training. And, I can't imagine this guy training, though. How's he going to tell you, like, how to condition and things like that? Yeah. They said Magee is eager to assist young fighters with the business side of boxing as well, an area of the game that can prove tricky as anything that goes on inside the ring, which, young fighters, I'm sure, need to understand how the business works. It's probably way different. They said he also assumed the role of cut man in the corner. Despite the potential importance of this responsibility, there's no formal training before you begin forcing adrenaline-soaked cotton buds into burst blood vessels and clamping split flesh together between your thumb and forefinger.
Those are adrenaline fueled? They have adrenaline in them?
I don't know. I never knew that.
I didn't know that.
Magee had very rarely bled himself in the ring, but he had inflicted enough wounds upon others inside and outside to, he knew how this shit works, basically. Yeah. So one of the first boxers he worked with was an East Belfast bantamweight named Colin Moffat. And so he's working with Moffat here. Moffat stepped into the ring in the National Stadium in Dublin to face Eugene Heagney for the vacant Irish bantamweight crown. So they went toe-to-toe in the flurry. Eamonn did his duty, and Colin went above and beyond the call of his own. And 3 rounds later, they gave him the victory. So Eamonn was very excited that he got his first fighter won, so he's good at that too. They say that in 2009, he was in relatively good form as Big Rogie stopped Skelton in the 11th, and these are his fighters. Okay, so he's doing well. He's doing well.
He's good at this part.
He's fucking good at this part here, yeah. So that's the problem is, though, his other guy died here. Who is it? The not Breen. Is it Callahan? Yeah. Mike Callahan, the man who had effectively come out of retirement to give Magee his chance as a pro, guided the fighter's career with integrity and honesty until the end, passed away peacefully. Eamonn was one of his pallbearers and all of that shit. A week later, Martin Rogan lost his Commonwealth title to Sam Sexton. That's one of his fighters. And Magee starts to unravel a little bit.
Uh-oh.
He said there are several reasons why Rogan relinquished his belt that night. Ultimately, it was the accidental headbutt which caused his left eye to swell shut, provoking the 8th round stoppage. Rogan's naivete in hesitating when Sexton was there for the kill, Sexton's gamesmanship with his gum shield shenanigans, and referee Dave Parris doing nothing to help the champion's cause throughout also played a major part. But Rogan, seeking an excuse for his defeat, like boxers often do, attempted to make Magee his scapegoat. He called Breen and accused Magee of being drunk in the corner and doing a line of cocaine in the toilets before the fight.
What?
Wow. He gave John an ultimatum on who would continue in Breen's gym, Rogan or Magee. John didn't blink, and Rogan went off to find another trainer and lose more fights than he won for the rest of his career. So, I don't need you. Fuck off. But the accusations hurt Eamonn. He said the drugs charge was pure nonsense. He said he never hid his alcohol consumption. Magee needs beer in his system to function and has done so. He's an alcoholic. He can't.
Yeah.
He'd be throwing up and having the fucking DTs if he didn't drink.
You need it, yeah.
So he cracks open a tin of lager as soon as he opens his eyes in the morning and maintains a steady intake throughout the day.
God dang.
Holy shit. Twice a week, a man driving a white van knocks on his door and drops off 2 20-tin cases of Carling beer. John Breen and all the boxers who train in his gym know this. While working there every day, Eamonn will leave a plastic bag of supplies outside the door and neck a tin or two every time he steals out on a nominal smoke break. The fighters couldn't give a damn because they know they can rely on Magee. They know he'll be there when they arrive for training and he'll give them 100%. He's just, that's the way his body functions that way. They actually prefer him with a few beers inside him, for the natural shyness dissipates and he finds it easier to open up and share knowledge and experience. The only days of the year on which he curtails his drinking are when he's working the corner of a fighter. Then he manages to refrain from alcohol until a couple hours before the first bell.
Wow.
When he'll drink 2 or 3 pints to settle him down. 2 or 3 just to get
couple,
right.
Yeah.
It may not be ideal, but it beats having an alcoholic with the shakes dealing with your open wound at the end of every round.
Yeah.
True. Okay.
But now your blood is so much thinner too, and you're going to be bleeding like crazy.
Well, no. He means as a cut man in the ring.
Yeah, but
you don't bleed unless you're fighting.
Yeah, but I don't think he should be telling people that drinking while being in the world of boxing at all is okay.
It seems like the craziest fucking thing in the world, doesn't it? It really does.
People are getting beat up. I don't want booze involved.
No, but I guess it's better than a shaky cut man.
I don't know. A shaky cut man could fall down too, or trip over the fucking spit jug. Anything.
Yeah, shaky cut man. No, that's not good.
Not
but
good.
I think 3 pints in him. I think that's when he's at his best.
His baseline. Yeah.
Yeah, it's his baseline. So they said the Rogan split began a chaotic summer in which his alcoholism did undeniably impact on him and those sucked into its vicinity. In July, he discovered that Mary had struck up a romantic relationship. Finally, Christ, I'm surprised it took her this long.
Yeah.
With a local Ardoyne man, and Eamonn knocked him out in a jealous rage, obviously. He was barred from it was at a bar, so he was barred from the premises after that incident. But the following month, he approached the front doors determined to confront Mary over a financial disagreement. Yeah. He was obviously hammered and grew increasingly agitated as a crowd gathered to physically prevent his entry. When a club committee member, a cousin of Mary, confronted him, the man ended up on his back with blood streaming from his nose. Police are called and Eamonn is arrested on an assault charge. Mm-hmm. I wanted to beat my wife, but I had to settle for this guy. In September, his relationship with Maria McGill is at an all-time low.
Uh-oh.
When he is accused by her of attacking her at her home.
Yeah.
He is arrested and charged with assault and released on bail to live with his brother in Newcastle, but he doesn't calm down. On a Christmas visit to see Mary and the kids, an argument spiraled out of control. He woke in his own bed in the Ardoyne the next morning, surrounded by police who entered through an open window. This time he's charged with making threats to kill, and the judge described him as a dangerous threat to the general public and decided to put him in jail for a little bit to calm him down.
Wow.
So it's a lot. It's a lot. Mary was almost suicidal when she first learned of Maria's existence, and yet less than 9 months later, she was bringing presents to the hospital to welcome Ethan into the world. Holy shit. That's insane.
Unbelievable.
Can you imagine that?
No.
What the fuck? She probably spent more time with the kid in the hospital than he did.
For sure, yeah.
Wow. The two women are close now.
Really?
What the fuck? United by a shared love for a flawed man and the strong friendships which their children have built and maintained over the years. They're not friendships. They're fucking related.
Yeah.
That's not a friendship if you're related to someone.
Those are half siblings.
Half brothers,
right?
Yeah. Both Mary and Maria speak of Eamonn in strikingly similar terms. Little is said explicitly, but the specter of domestic violence, both physical and mental, often hangs heavy between the lines of many conversations. Yeah. There are allusions to children seeing things they should have never seen, admissions of locking doors and hiding fearfully in their own home. They pinpoint drink and drugs as the genesis of Eamonn's problems and describe him as a stubborn man who refuses to apologize or take responsibility for his actions that have hurt others.
Or anything else.
Or really anything, yeah. They see a man with a selective memory, quick to create his own truth and then stick fast to it in the face of all contrary evidence. They believe Eamonn is bipolar.
Oh.
And, he's the most lovely, gentle, genuine, heartfelt man in the world one day and then a hateful bully the next. But that's also alcoholic and everything else. So it's hard to diagnose someone with a mental illness while they're drinking that much because you don't know what they're wrong. Yeah.
The real mental illness is the substance abuse, but let's get that under control, and then we'll figure out the chemical shit.
Then you figure out where the chemicals are after you remove a bunch of chemicals.
What chemicals are left?
Yeah. So 2010, Eamonn spends pretty much the whole year in court. Court, jail, on bail. He is initially sentenced to 6 months inside jail for the punching the guy at the clubhouse there that is trying to find his wife. But the conviction was overturned on appeal in early March. So then he had to also figure out the Mary and Maria incidents of beating both of them. And they continued to, deal with this through all this shit. So in April, charges of breaking a non-molestation order against Maria were added.
Oh, yeah.
It's a restraining order, but it sounds much worse.
Sounds gross. Like he had to be told not to.
And he was put back in jail. After 6 months in jail, he was released to live in Hull with Vicky, a woman he'd met years before while boxing and I guess has kept in touch with. He's only permitted to enter Northern Ireland for his own court cases. That's it, just to go to court. He rents a house, rents his house out to some guy who ends up using it as a grow house for weed.
Oh, nice.
And the police raid the house, and that's a pain in the ass.
Break it all
here.
apart, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Wow. So he has the assault trial for Maria here. As a prosecution witness, the Hamill person took the stand and was pushed to describe his friend as a dangerous bully, someone he was afraid of. Several times, Hamill swore on his life that he was not frightened of Magee. but the cross-examiner wouldn't let up on his line of questioning. Finally, tired of the repetition, Hamill changed his tune and said, "Yes, I'm scared of him."
Okay.
He suddenly admitted as Eamonn shook his head and put his face in his hands. But before the satisfied prosecution lawyer could rest her case, Hamill had a sting in the tail. He said, quote, "I'm scared he'll leave the chip pan on when he goes to bed."
Oh,
Like
he's
a
got
frying
brain
pan.
damage. Yeah.
But Hamill's character reference fell on deaf ears, and the judge handed down a 12-month sentence. "You, sir, may fuck off."
Yeah.
12 months. Eamonn immediately appealed the ruling and was released back to East Yorkshire, where, but when Vicky threw him out over the summer, he was forced to sneak back into Northern Ireland anyway.
Oh, no.
The crossing of the Irish Sea violated the conditions of his bail, and after a couple months hiding out, the authorities tracked him down and returned him to jail for the remainder of 2010.
Right.
Holy shit. That's a lot. Wow. This jail that he's in, by the way, HMP Maghaberry, was described by the chief inspector of prisons in England and Wales as one of the worst he's ever visited and the most dangerous in the UK. An accompanying report by an inspector of prisons and criminal justice inspection of Northern Ireland was just as scathing, a detailed litany of defects that included high levels of risk of violence, inadequate health and educational provisions, excessive time spent in lockdown conditions, and a generally unsafe and unstable environment. That could be there or the Phoenix City jails, either one. Maricopa County jails are just like
Pretty
that,
bad.
too.
Yeah.
But Eamonn's expectations of prison life had been lowered dramatically by his experiences in the early 1990s, and he had no complaints about the time he spent there. He said there were familiar faces from around his hometown, so he knew a lot of people.
Yeah.
Inmates had spoken to prison guards and arranged for Eamonn to be moved into his own single cell. He had no trouble from there either from anybody else, and everybody left him alone. They said fights in the jail were very rare, he said, and if one did erupt, he would be the peacemaker rather than the instigator.
Oh, he's fixing problems.
That's
what a
it,
mediator.
yeah. Because they're all afraid of him, too. He's going to kick their asses. Unless you identified as being part of a paramilitary group, Protestants and Catholics shared the space and got on with life together inside with few problems. Mm-hmm. So he struck up friendships with some of the guards who would sit in his cell. I'll read the quote from the book, who'd sit in his cell for a crafty fag or two.
Crafty ones.
Crafty. I got made, a rollie. Or shoot the breeze about his career at the local boxing scene.
Sure.
Tobacco was fine, but when the smell of dope wafted into the corridors, the guards were forced to intervene. Yeah. When Eamonn heard the footsteps approach, he'd flick the miniature joint out of the barred window with unerring accuracy. Mm-hmm. "Fuck me, you were quick there, Eamonn," was all the warden would say with a quick scan of the cell. Confirmed pungent smoke, but no sign of anything, any joint. So, wow. They said that he was very much a part of the school of prisoner who keeps his head down and attempts to make the most of a bad situation, which is smart. That's all he did.
Yeah.
Now, Eamonn always points to his exceptionally high win rate in court, not in the ring, as if that's all that needs to be said about all the allegations of assault and domestic abuse leveled on him. He's like, it's all bullshit. See, look, I got out of it most of the time. Yeah. He wonders why he's apparently deserved all the badness done onto him, yet he's the one suspected of projecting pain and hurt. The victim is a saint, and he remains the devil, is the way it works. He just responds to situations, he says. They make me out to be the bad guy. Mm-hmm. He just stands his ground. He talks of it being a woman's world now, women with power over him, an ability to use and abuse and control him. Two in particular have had their claws in him for many years now, he said, and there's always more than one truth. If it's all sorts of problems and the only common denominator is you.
Yeah, and there's not always more than one truth unless you're involved.
Sounds like you're the fucking problem, I would say, yeah. So while he is free from legal shit now, he's got all sorts of other shit going on. He's still doing drugs and booze and everything else you can imagine here. He is also forced to face the fact that he's broke.
That's no good.
I mean, he has no money anymore, so that's a problem here. A lump sum was placed in a bank account under Mary's name, and she had that still, and they would fight over that, basically. he was now living with a woman named Donna in Ballyclare, a small town 25 minutes north of Belfast, where he used to box. It's a Protestant area, and an experience at a funeral a few years earlier made him a little wary of his new surroundings. When the father of a local middleweight, Willie Thompson, passed away, Eamonn decided to go pay his respects. Invited back to the pub for the town post-funeral drinks, Magee was happy to do it, but he's the only Catholic on the premises. Oh. He was enjoying his pints and pool when a dispute over a shot turned physical, and he beat up 2 or 3 people before his friend grabbed him and hurried him out the door before somebody killed him, basically. So that's the problem. Basically, people came to the door with bats and pickaxe handles to try to get him, but police came and got them away from there. So he's a mess. So, he's going to try. Eamonn agreed with Donna that a fortnight in the Ardoyne was a prudent choice for the 12th of July festivals. But his second summer, he felt more at ease and decided to stick around to see how Protestants celebrate the highlight of the Orange Marching season. I don't know what that is. On the 11th night, he strolled across to the biggest bonfire in town, just as the Catholic effigies and Irish tricolor flags were catching on fire on the peaks of the towering infernos. Naturally, he was instantly recognized, and within the charged and largely drunken atmosphere that surrounds such occasions, Eamonn held his breath and waited to see what sort of welcome he would receive. Minutes later, he'd be handed his first free burger and beer, and the generosity of spirit didn't let up all night. He stood drinking by the flames until the glorious 12th had dawned, and still recalls the experience with fondness. So that's nice anyway. Didn't have to. I expected him to have to, fight 8 people here now. Mm-hmm. So he goes back to Breen's gym, and Eamonn's focusing on getting Paul McCloskey into shape for a world title shot. Yeah. So he's doing all of this shit. Eamonn said at one point, "Come on, Barry, that's enough. Get out of my fighter's changing room," because somebody came to fuck with the guy, basically. Yeah. Such contrasting characters as Magee and McEwen were always unlikely to be the best of friends, but the frosty exchange ensured even cordiality would be a stretch from now on. Okay, so the defeat was effectively the end of Murray's career, and it wasn't long before another of Breen's gym boxer was forced to call it a day, albeit in much more tragic circumstances. The young lightweight, Kieran Farrell, had sought out John and Eamonn himself and flew over each week to train in the Belfast gym and sleep in Eamonn's home. He was rewarded with a run of victories, which led to a bout with future world champion Anthony Crolla for the vacant English title. Farrell gave it all in the fight of the year contender, and when Breen hoisted him aloft at the final bell, it was a genuine hope that he would be awarded the decision. But within seconds, winning or losing became a total irrelevance, as Eamonn cushioned Farrell's limp body as it slumped from John's shoulders onto the ring floor. Oh. They screamed for medics and everything else, and an acute subdural hematoma was increasing the pressure on his brain. He didn't die, but he would never box again.
No shit.
And that was rough. So that's nothing's working out for anybody here.
No.
After his niece's wedding in Newcastle, he arrived back at his rented apartment with Donna, Francis, and his mother to find a drunken, belligerent traveler shit-faced in the communal hallway. Uh-oh. And we know about these travelers from this area. Yeah. Will you keep it down? Eamonn asked rhetorically. And don't be swearing like that in front of my mother. Uh-huh. Irish travelers are well known for short tempers and propensity to settle differences with their fists. That's not smart here. So it was no surprise when this one reacted aggressively to the warning. But despite being a mountain of a man, he's no match for an ex-world champion boxer with his backup. Eamonn didn't stop punching until his rival was slumped on the floor with blood splattered across the walls and ceiling.
Holy shit.
The Magee party called the police themselves, and when the local cops arrived, their hearts sank. Oh, Christ, Eamonn. There'll be murder now. He's the bloody gypsy king around here.
There'll be murder.
Oh, now they're going to kill you. Fuck. They all love this guy. He just battered to a pulp the hardest Irish traveler in town. Uh-oh. And they were like, you should fucking disappear, basically. That's not do that. So the cops hurried Eamonn to his car, sat him behind the wheel, And he was shit-faced, and they're like, don't care, drive that way.
Just get out of here.
Drive that direction. A couple of weeks later, he and Donna returned to Newcastle for a stroll along the beach where the travelers sell donkey rides to kids and anyone else brave enough to straddle on them.
Sure.
One of the out of the corner of his eye, he saw them nudge each other and look in his direction. Fearful and awed at the sight of the man who had annihilated their king inside 30 seconds. It was neither the first or the last time Magee would scrap with a traveler. When his relationship with Donna soured, Mary briefly took him back into the big house overlooking the city, but Eamonn's bad days outnumbered his good, and the two were often at each other's throats.
Yeah.
When he slammed the front door and marched off, he regularly found himself in a nearby watering hole, his anger still simmering below the surface. Wow, a local traveler clan frequented the pub too, and violence became almost inevitable when their path crossed Magee's in this mood. Yeah, that's how it would be. 2014 was the year both McCullough and Conlon cemented their status as two rising stars of Irish boxing. Right. We'll talk a little bit about that. Eamonn managed to mix these professional highs with much darker personal lows. And yet another fight with Mary led to more assault charges. He can't stop beating Mary up.
God damn it.
During the trial, Eamonn told the court that this was the 19th such allegation against him, and it would be the 19th time he'd beat it. The judge disagreed and gave him a 4-month suspended sentence. Much more serious accusations were made by a woman following a drink and cocaine-fueled incident in a flat in Old Park district next to the Ardoyne. Eamonn insisted that he had acted in self-defense and merely tried to subdue an unprovoked attacker who was throwing Hagler-esque combinations at him.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah, Marvin, you know. Now, he says that had he really repeatedly punched this victim, as the prosecution claimed, he would have knocked her out cold with one fist blow. So this is crazy. The judge said, I don't think it's so crazy. 4 months in prison. You, sir, may fuck off. Eat dicks. He appealed, was released on bail, but now, like all the fighters, some of the fighters don't want to work with him, and some of the other trainers don't want him working with fighters, and it's not going well at all here. Now, by the way, we're talking about his kids for a minute. Imagine being his kid.
No.
Unpredictable.
Yeah.
Francis, the older one, the oldest, believed that he saw the worst of the strict father persona. But next in line, the daughter, Anne, or whatever her name is adamant that she bore the brunt of all the punishments meted out for minor shit. The fact that Anne is most like her father and attracted trouble quicker and more often than her two brothers combined probably means she's right, basically. Yeah. But she's also a daddy's girl, she says.
Sure.
Now, she said, I love the bones of my daddy. I'll do anything for him. That's a weird statement. Yeah. Don't like love his guts. Don't like that at all. She painted a graphic picture of helping her old man with his morning constitutional in the hospital after the snowman attack. You're stinking, Daddy, she remembers squealing with laughter as she held his leg. Because his cast would stink. So, it's a lot here. The aforementioned craziness in Eamonn often emerged in family holidays abroad.
Uh-oh.
Although his mood and alcohol intake tended to determine if they were positive or negative experiences for the kids, the America trip with Hamill's antics and constant rowing with Mary was a bad one, for example, but there were plenty. In the Mediterranean sun that are largely fond memories, even if still pockmarked by Dad's dangerously erotic behavior. Erratic is what I meant to say. Dangerously erotic is something much different.
That's terrible.
Wow, dangerously erotic is scary.
That's things inside you that are too big.
Dangerously too big. Wow. On a jet ski excursion with Francis, Eamonn decided the rules on where you could go and for how long did not apply to their craft. The result was a boatload of tourists howling in delight and videoing a shoal of angry Spanish tour operators chasing Eamonn down and wrestling him off the jet ski. He nearly lost a finger in the melee, and the overzealous Spaniard who provoked the injury was lucky he wasn't found when Eamonn went in search of him the next morning. Right. But it was all par for the course as far as the ex-boxer was concerned. Back in Belfast, he'd arrive home after days away with the gift of a quad bike, or rouse the house at 4 a.m. to present a life-size fiberglass donkey he'd requisitioned from the Slane Music Festival. "Daddy, you're not right in the head," Anne said as she rubbed her eyes and stumbled back to bed.
Yeah.
They said, but there aren't as many memories, good or bad, from those formative years as a child would like, because quite simply, he wasn't around. Between the boxing and the drinking and the women, he just wasn't there. Now, Eamonn Jr., though, here, Eamonn Jr. and Francis both took up boxing, but Eamonn Jr. was the one who stuck with it.
Yeah.
He's trained and everything else. He carried on basically, he'd been like with his dad a little bit, during the boxing stuff, but now he's getting into it. He was training in the famous Immaculata Club on Falls Road under Jerry Nugget Nugent, the gym's head trainer. He went on to become the Irish under-21 champion in 2011, lose the 2012 Ulster final by a point, and win the Irish intermediaries in 2013. So he ends up turning professional in 2014, and Eamonn's excited about it.
Really?
Yeah, he's jacked. He's like, good, maybe you can do what I couldn't do. Mm-hmm. So he's doing really well. Eamonn brought his son into Breen's gym and began working him real hard, and working him out, worked him over erotically.
No shit. Dangerously.
That's funny. They said there were some similarities between father and son in the ring, very much so, as a matter of fact. But Junior is less of a fuck up. Is the difference, though? That's they said Eamonn attempted to open his boy's eyes to the reality of the boxing game, a business in which the vast majority experience far more downs than ups. So he's trying to temper him a little bit here.
Sure.
For that. So not long after his second fight, Junior went for a drink with his dad and his older brother Francis in the Shamrock. There's still a lot of tension between the two, but at least they were sitting at the table having a fucking pint here.
Uh-huh.
They fought each other about everything. That's the way it was. I mean, basically the younger Magee is doing like a lot of modern diets and supplements and has a bunch of tattoos and shit like that. And Eamonn likes to fuck with him and pick on him and shit like that. So it's a lot. They're not getting along together. So anyway, they're out having a pint. At one point late in the night, a local hood fancied making a name for himself and grabbed Junior by the throat. Eamonn intervened and calmed the situation. He made the peace, much as a wise old head who'd seen it all before might.
Right.
At closing time, outside on Ardoyne Avenue, a bottle flew in the direction of the three Magees.
Uh-oh.
But as Junior's blood rose, just like his dad's had on countless occasions, Eamonn led his two boys away. "It's not worth it," he told them. "It never is. Come on home." Mm-hmm. Wow. Less than 2 months later, Junior was enjoying a Friday night in a flat in Summerhill Park on the Twinbrook estate in West Belfast. He was with Courtney Ward, a girl from his gym with whom he'd struck up a romantic relationship with a couple weeks before. They sat together on the sofa listening to music and having a few drinks. When they looked at the time, they were surprised to see it was already 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, but neither was tired, so they ordered some pizza.
Mm-hmm.
At 2:40 a.m., Junior opened the back door to see what was keeping the delivery driver and was met by Orhan Koca, Koca, springing from the darkness to plunge a 6-inch kitchen blade into his thigh, buttocks, and then his chest.
Oh, my God.
Stabbing the fuck at him. Coca then withdrew the knife and in a frenzy stabbed a further 3 times before running off into the night.
Uh-huh.
Junior tried to rise, but merely stumbled forward into the darkness. His blood was found on a child's slide in the backyard, the gate, a parked car, and finally on the curbside, where he was found by passersby. An ambulance was there in 3 minutes, but he is dead.
What the shit?
Stabbed to death.
Just the 3 wounds, but
6
deep.
times he got stabbed.
6. Okay.
5 times in the chest. So they said, at the time, they said it's not clear at this stage whether the murder is opportunistic or planned.
Right.
But they said one thing is clear, though. There's a motive for violence. He was carrying a knife. This is a premeditated act. He's a jealous guy. It's like this chick's ex-boyfriend or whatever who did this. So, wow.
Well,
yeah, that is obviously. Fuck, they said the family are devastated. We're all completely shattered by this. You have to understand, Eamonn was a great kid who had his life planned out and everything was ahead of him. We just can't believe this happened. Wow. That's fucking horrible, man. Yeah.
What do you do?
Jesus Christ. I mean, if you're Eamonn Sr., I don't know.
Yeah.
Eamonn Sr. was high on cocaine when he finally answered his phone.
Oh, boy.
But he sobered up quick when he got to the hospital.
That'll do it, yeah.
And so that was that. And Eamonn gets there, who he formally identifies the body.
Hey.
That is rough.
That's fucked up, man.
Yeah. So they talk about how all these articles about how Magee was his father's right-hand man and all this type of shit. And he had a bright future ahead of him.
No shit.
Really did. So March 14th, 2017, the guy pleads guilty.
Okay.
And they said yesterday he was still pushing for manslaughter, but he came in this morning and pleaded guilty to the murder charge. So, yeah, there you go. And, wow, that's fucking crazy, man.
That's fucked up, man.
That's fucked up. These people, I mean, Jesus Christ.
It's an ex. Imagine, what the fuck, man?
Who cares? Yeah. Stop giving a shit about people and
jealousy
what they do.
So just do that. Stop giving a shit about people.
Yeah, stop caring about people, especially if they get out of your life. Good.
Yeah, if they're out of why do you give a fuck? What the hell, man?
Go
Stop
away.
it.
Leave people the fuck alone.
Why are you worried about them?
Guy ends up getting 14 years for this.
Jesus.
14.
Well, I guess in Ireland, that's why you do it, because you'll still live outside prison walls at some point.
Yeah. They said 14 years for a premeditated murder in cold blood, Eamonn said. He was a hitman. He went tooled up. He knew how to use a knife because he learned in his military service in Turkey. He laid in wait for my son, for his prey. He stabbed his prey in the thigh and buttocks to drop it and then ended his life with 2 strikes through the lungs. He stabbed him some more. And they said, his friend said, I'm sorry, Eamonn, 14 years is an insult. And he said, correct, a fucking insult. Someone has done a deal somewhere, but why would anyone help that bastard? He's wasted 2 years of everyone's time and public money, 2 years prolonging our agony. Wow.
That's fucked up.
It really is. It's.
I can't believe anybody could do 14 years after literally stalking and murdering someone in the fucking streets.
Especially for that motivation.
Yeah.
You know,
for that reason. That's fucked up, man.
Oh, man, that's really fucked up. So, I don't know. He said, I'm sure I know people who've done longer for armed robbery.
Yeah.
So he said they should all be ashamed. And, yeah. So, anyway, now they talk about, this author talks about contacting Magee about I'm sorry, for the book here. And he said, a book? Listen, I've been beaten with baseball bats. I've had my throat slashed. I've been kidnapped, and I've been exiled out of my country. My family's been held captive in our home as well. I've been shot twice. I've been imprisoned. My son's just been stabbed to death. Amongst all that, I was the welterweight champion of the world while drinking the bar dry and doing enough coke to kill a small horse every night. My life's not a book. It's a fucking movie script.
Yeah.
He said, these were the first words that Eamonn Magee ever spoke to me, the author said. I was sitting in a Madrid car park while he stood in John Breen's gym on the outskirts of Belfast. I still recall the pressure I felt, the fear that I'd lose him before I ever had him, the creeping sense of panic that I'd caught him on one of his supposedly many off days. Yeah. So he said he went and talked to him, and he said Eamonn was, he said we'd arranged to meet at a bar. When I arrived, I sat down and joined him and 2 of his acquaintances sitting outside, seemingly content to suffer the cold air here to have a smoke and a pint. And he said, suddenly a noise emanated from my pocket, and I realized my dictaphone had been left unlocked, and a movement had inadvertently started playing an old recording. My temperature steadily rising, I removed the offending device from my jacket as nonchalantly as I could and switched it off. They said, were you recording all that? They asked with a smile. He said, I'm beginning to wonder about you. Joking around.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this fucking guy. He's wearing a wire. So he says, I can't tell this story. I can't tell this story. He says the whole thing. He's like, this is, I can't do it. I can't do it. But he ends up telling him about his dad being taken away and all that kind of shit. And then, so they end up kind of making a deal to do this. So despite a good career and doing everything, Eamonn has a British passport now, all that kind of thing. He said that he teased him, the author did, calling him a traitor to the cause.
Oh?
And he says, I don't give a fuck about all that crap. He said, I can't remember, but it was probably just quicker or cheaper to get the Brit one this time.
Probably.
Yep. He said, when we settled in the living room sofa, I continued the conversation, asking what it was all about, the Irish tricolors everywhere when he fought. Listen, he said in an even tone, it's not anyone's fault. What the fuck? It's not anyone's fault where their dad puts his cock in, is it?
Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah, that doesn't make so. Yeah, don't hate people for who they are, because it's not their fault where their dad puts his cock. Interesting. That's funny. He said, to this day, I can't do anything about how many people want to interpret my actions. You mentioned Wayne there, a Protestant from Shankill, one of my best mates from the first time we met as a kid, boxing in small hall shows all over the city. Like I've told you before, I have nothing against Protestants or Unionists or whatever you want to call them in Northern Ireland, but I'm Irish. I was born in Ireland. I'm very proud of where I come from. I'm proud to be Irish. If I was English, I'd have probably worn a St. George's cross. If I was Scottish, whatever their horse shit is, and their Welsh or dragons or whatever the fuck. Whatever they got going on. Yeah. He said, he said, I never wore the Irish colors against Burke in that first fight. I was dressed head to toe in the fucking Ivory Coast flag. Okay.
Yeah.
So Eamonn's, his whole thing here, it's got to be a weird life for him at this point, because he had all of this chaos, and now you're just getting kind of old, and you're just kind of
sad.
Yeah, it's just fucking weird.
But also lost his kid, like that. It's so sad.
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing, man. So Connolly, the one guy, I think that's the guy whose arm he broke on the curb that time when he was a kid.
Yeah.
His oldest friend once met the author and told the author that Magee was already a full-blown alcoholic by the age of 16. Eamonn laughed out loud when the author told him that, but he didn't refute it. He said, I certainly liked a beer most nights then. Yeah, right. True. Yeah. So they said, he said, the author said, I immediately countered that he already liked to drink most nights well before his mid-teens. He nodded. Then when I referred back to the stolen bottle of cider antidote, and another childhood memory sparked back to life in his mind's eye. That bottle of Blackthorn when I was 9, that wasn't actually the first time I got drunk, There was another time I forgot about, Christmas Eve. I was only a nipper because Terry was still in the house. That's his dad. My dad was drinking Mundy's fortified wine, and he gave me a few glasses. I remember I slept in my mom and dad's bed that night, and the next day when my ma and Terry and Noel and Patrick all got up, we went downstairs for Christmas. Me and my dad couldn't even lift our heads off the pillow. We slept right through Christmas lunch and everything.
Oh,
that was
God.
the first hangover I ever had. Wow, that is fucking wild. One of Doc's friends, Dad's friends, told the author about how they gradually drifted apart over the years. He said, it's very sad. The drink just got to him. He stopped working, and you just see him walking along the street with his head down and a plastic bag of cans in his hand. He'd go into one of the houses where the alcoholics all hang out, and you mightn't see him again for a few days.
A bar?
I know, a bar. This is where you bring your own booze, and it's like a crack house.
Oh my God, really?
A booze house, somebody's drunk house you go to. Yeah.
God dang.
Jesus Christ, man, that's a lot.
It's fucked up. That's too bad.
That's fucked up, man. So he talks about another story. Eamonn talks about that. Eamonn has similar houses he goes to on most days, drunk houses. There's Hamels, of course, but Drunk houses, and especially Hugo's, have become more regular haunts. The first time I sat with them in Hugo's house, I was sporting a beard grown through laziness rather than any fashionable pretensions. We don't get many hipsters in here, Hugo teased me. Not a hipster, he's just lazy.
Yeah.
He said he went on to say that he'd woken up and gone to get the paper across the road as he does every morning when the news agents open at 7 a.m. It was winter and cold and dark, and he shuffled out of his cramped cul-de-sac off Ardoin Avenue. The amount of traffic surprised him for the hour, and though he was getting stranger looks than normal from the people he passed and the girl who served him, it was only when he got home and switched on the television that he realized it was 7 p.m. Not a.m.
Had no idea.
Yeah, he said, when we emerged from the empty tins and marijuana smoke about an hour later, Eamonn told me a graver tale. The previous week, he caught Hugo slurring his words earlier in his drunken cycle than usual. Eamonn looked at him directly. Hugo, what's wrong with you, mate? Are you feeling all right? He managed a weak, lopsided smile in response. Lift that arm for me, mate, Eamonn continued. For fuck's sake, Hugo, mate. Eamonn called an ambulance, got into the back of it alongside his friend, and spent the night in the hospital with him. His friend had a stroke.
Wow.
So, yeah, it never stops with him.
Never. No.
Never.
It's just tragedy after tragedy all the way surrounding his life.
It's just constant, fucking constant. He said he would try to dry himself out once in a while, but that didn't work. He lasted one day in a rehabilitation clinic in Newry before there was no TV, so he couldn't deal with it. Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, he said, can help, but he refuses to attend any in Belfast where he fears everyone will know. They all know him and whisper about him, basically. He's traveled to cities far and wide to go to meetings, but it's just, whatever. He said, I'm absolutely fine. I go to the doctor for a full medical every year. The first time I did it, the doc said I'm fit and healthy. I thought the bastard was just telling me what I wanted to hear. I went mad in his surgery. How the fuck can I be healthy? I shouted at him. I told him about all the drinking and drugs. Did you not fucking check my liver? I asked. He said it's all in perfect shape.
Right.
And anyway, what am I supposed to do when I come out of the gym? It's always been the same. I don't read books, and I only put the TV on in the background to fall asleep at night. So what do you want me to do? There's fuck all to do in this country that doesn't involve drink. I think that's a problem here.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fucking drink going on there. He's got to deal with his son's death, which is not fucking easy for him. And, and everyone is very concerned about his state of mind also. Basically, because they're like, Christ, he was on the edge to begin with. Now his son's gotten murdered and everything else.
Yeah.
It's not good. They said he's still gambling more than he should here. But now it's just to test his own knowledge rather than chasing winners or an adrenaline rush. The stakes are small these days as well. They have to be when you're surviving on 75 pounds a week in benefits.
Oh, boy.
Women come and go in generally fraught circumstances, while Maria and especially Mary continue as constants in his life. He spends each weekend with Ethan and sees Anne and Francis when he can too, but although they love and idolize their dad, they're somewhat stunted relationships, which he should put more effort into and doesn't. Right. So that is not good. So on May 30th, 2016, the first anniversary of Junior's murder, the author said he sent a text to Eamonn saying, thinking of you today, mate. An hour later, Eamonn called. How are we finishing this book, he said. I mean, what's going to be the final scene, so to speak? And he said, I had just ended it with the above quote from Isabel, but it was a fairly early draft and I wasn't convinced. So the ending is often the hardest part of telling the story. This is what he said originally, what he was going to end on. My Eamonn is so deep. You see, songs, he really listens to them and tells me, Ma, listen to these words, Bob Marley songs, and that old one, Who's That Knockin'? If he dies before me, I'm getting listen to the lyrics engraved on his headstone. That's what he always says. He's very sensitive. He cries his eyes out. But then he has an attitude that he just goes on with his life. No matter what happens, he doesn't hide away. I used to phone him every night, and he'd ask me, what do you want? What do you want, Ma? And I'd sing to him. I just called to say I love you, the Stevie Wonder song.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, Mummy, sing that song or the song I like, and I'd be singing down the phone to him just to make him happy. She said, because you don't know what goes through his head at night. She says, I wouldn't like to be inside his brain. I always say to him, you're a thorn in my side, but I love you with a passion. I love all my sons so much. I feel sorry for Eamonn, and I worry about him because of what he's seen and where he is now, because of the different relationships he's had and broken, and what he's left behind. I feel sorry for him because I think he's a lost soul. I really think he's a lost soul.
Yeah.
That's what he was going to end with. So at this point, he's like, shit, I don't know. So he says he said, I don't know. What are you thinking? He said about the ending of the book. And suddenly, for the first time ever with me, Eamonn sounded a little self-conscious. I don't know, he started tentatively. I was just thinking, last night I drove over to Twinbrook with a friend, Sam Barkley. I'd asked Sam to make up a plaque for Eamonn Jr. Another mate, Fra Lavery, painted the fence for me. Me and Sam went over there around 2 a.m, and we sat in his car. Then at 2:40, the time my son took his last breath, I got out and put the plaque in place.
God.
It's a sad thing, I know, but it's a nice thing. At least it's a nice thing for me. Maybe it's stupid, but it made me feel good. I think I'd like that to be the end of the book.
Okay.
So the author here, going to summarize Eamonn here. He said, I've seen Eamonn on good days and bad days over the past 2 years. I've sat beside him in bars as he attempted to mask the silent terror and paranoia eating him from within, fearful that someone would soon enter, lead him away, and shoot him dead. I've waited outside a Belfast courthouse for him while he argued his case in one of his myriad legal disputes that appeared to be omnipresent in his life. I've stood behind him and Mary at their son's grave on what would have been Junior's 23rd birthday. Eamonn somehow awkward and out of place in the family scene. I've watched him from a couple feet away as he worked wonders in the corner to stem the flow of blood from above a fighter's eye in the 60 seconds permissible within the frantic heat of a title fight. I then sat in the desolation of the same beaten fighter's dressing room as a doctor stitched him in silence, still gloved up, for Eamonn was already AWOL in the Manchester night with the necessary scissors in his pocket. I met him animated, fresh-faced, and positive throughout the day, which he held together with little more than a handful of pints for support.
Sure.
I've watched him lose other days in sullen stupor, in a squat thick with marijuana smoke and littered with empty beer cans. I've had him call me only to hang up after less than a minute of quiet sobbing, unable to even get a mumbled word out. Forgive me were his final words on those nights.
Oh.
I've had him refuse to talk to me on the phone, paranoid about who could be listening to the names of those who have suffered for divulging information across the wires. I've listened to his words tell me he regrets nothing while his eyes betray the truth. I've watched him break down in tears many, many times, tears of anger, pain, of a sort of sad, happy nostalgia too. I've seen him very stubborn man, one accustomed to forcing his will onto others, who makes dangerous assumptions on what is right and what is wrong. I've seen a bitter man, someone who will create, nurture, and then embrace and harbor a grudge for an eternity. I've seen a fiercely loyal man as well, one who continues to personally deliver a bouquet of flowers to the door of his long-dead manager's wife every Christmas Eve. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Thoughtful. Yeah.
Yeah, he is thoughtful. When he's not shit-faced and angry.
Yeah.
I've seen a sentimental man, sensitive to the point he feels like he needs to hide that side of his character for fear of a perceived weakness. I've seen a normal man just wanting to chat, asking how my family and I are doing. I've seen a man still struggling with everything that has gone before. Mm-hmm. This is funny here. Doc, his dad, is never far from his mind. It's his whole role model and his hero. He took a phone call from an RUC officer known only as Jock one day, back when he was a fighter living in Lagmore. Jock was a good cunt, Eamonn assures me now. There were good cunts as well as bad in the RUC, just like every other walk of life. That's what I love that. There's good cunts as well as bad.
Yeah.
Holy shit. So, this is fucking interesting. Eamonn remembers back when he was a kid, 10 years old, in northern France, his first time out of Ireland. he said that I guess it was a community initiative to show working class troubled kids that there was nicer places, like in the 70s when they take city kids to the country.
Yeah.
He said, I stayed with a beautiful family. They had 2 kids about my age. At the weekend, we went up to see their grandparents on the coast, and we went out fishing for crabs. You just snorkeled down yourself and grabbed as many as you could from the bottom while they nipped your fingers. I've never felt anything like it, being out there in the ocean on my own. The water was so clear, I loved every minute when I was there, and they kept inviting me back. I went over on the Cork to Roscoff boat 3 times to stay with them. He said, then he paused and said, a different world from the Ardoyne. So like kind of thinking, what would my life have been if that was my, if I had that, would I be a different guy? Yeah. My father wasn't an alcoholic who was being put in internment camps all the time. So the author says, I still think of my friend Eamonn at least once every single day and can't help worrying about him. In a recent phone call, he admitted that he wasn't eating and that he was drinking himself into oblivion. He'd been desperately hoping that a damning verdict and lengthy sentence for Orhan Coca would provide some crumb of comfort and degree of closure. The leniency shown to his son's killer shattered that hope, but had Coca been sentenced to 1,000 years, it wouldn't have helped Eamonn.
Yeah, destroyed his life, though. That's fucked up.
Yeah, absolutely destroyed his life. I can't help worrying about Eamonn, but even since I placed the final full stop in this book, several chinks of light have been fracturing the darkness he faces. He's engaged now. A quiet, sweet girl named Bronna Cassidy, the latest to try to tame him. She just makes me happy, he says. She makes me want to wake up each morning. Fuck knows what would have happened if she hadn't been around for the past few years. Fuck knows what would happen. He has a new grandson, Eamonn III. Let's just not with that.
Yeah.
It's a cursed thing. Eamonn's had a tough life. His son is dead. He had the talk about junior disease. Jesus Christ.
That's not good at all. That's cursed as fuck.
Oh, his daughter, that's his daughter's kid here, second born. He has a new gym, also recently opened on Ravenhill Road. Being there with John every day, immersing himself in the blood, sweat, and tears of young fighters who idolize him, keeps the self-destructive thoughts from his mind for a few hours at least. Right. His nephew, Sean, that's his brother Patrick's son, turned pro that year to continue the Magee boxing dynasty. They're reopening the Sacred Heart Gym, and around the corner there's a big mural in honor of the North Belfast fighters with Eamonn and his brothers at center stage.
Right.
So now he's becoming like this different, like a legend type, you know what I mean? It's like an actor, like you see like a child actor will work till they're like 19, and then you don't see them for a few years, so they're in their washed up period.
Right.
And then they pop up again when they're 35, and everyone's like, "Oh fuck, there's that guy," and then they love him again. It's the same exact thing. Once you've been shuffled out for a while, now you're like legendary. Now you're like Macaulay Culkin, and when you pop up, people are like, "Holy shit, it's Macaulay Culkin!"
And he hates it. And he hates you, and he hates everybody.
And he hates everybody, and he just wants to fucking spend his Home Alone money and be left alone. He wants to be left home alone.
Yeah,
the irony there.
And you guys are ruining it.
Oh, man. So Isabel is right. Her youngest son is a lost soul, but he's a fighter and a survivor, too. Life and all its travails have driven him to the edge many times before, but when all he needed was a gentle nudge to jump, he received a violent shunt that riled him and forced him to fight back. That fuck you attitude is why he's still alive today. Someone once joked with me, he'll see us all into the grave yet. I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of the book. That was like 2017, I think that came out. Okay. Now, 2011, there's a big headline that says, Race Against Time to Beat Blood Clots.
Oh.
Eamonn Magee is facing his biggest fight of his career to save his life. They said, we can now reveal the Belfast man has 2 blood clots on his brain and is waiting for life-saving surgery after cracking his head in a fall.
Oh, no.
But Magee, who admits he's an alcoholic who started drinking at the age of 9, has been told he must beat the booze for a week before they operate. You can't be drunk while we're operating.
No,
you have to not drink for at least a week. Shouldn't be that difficult to do, I would think. But his wife, Mary, describes her husband as, still married, by the way, his wife, Mary, he had a fiance a couple of years ago, as a walking time bomb who is in a race against time to save himself. Magee also revealed how local heartthrob Jamie Dornan has been penciled in to play him in a new film, and how he continues to smoke cannabis because, quote, it's the only thing that keeps me sane.
It is, yeah.
I get you, babe. I'm right back at you.
You got to
feel
be.
you.
Look, man, dealing with this world is brutal, and if you're not going to drink, you better smoke.
You better smoke. Yeah. I never got the. They always say, like, people who are really into weed and, like, you know, quote unquote addicts or whatever of weed or whatever. They always say, like, when they first smoke, one of the first couple times, they have like it's the greatest thing in the world. They have like this epiphany.
Sure,
I never had that with it.
No?
I was always like, that makes me feel pretty sane and calm. That was all it ever was. Like, I never ever was like, oh, this is my favorite thing. I never had that, like, you know, joyous, crazy thing that people have. I was always just like, this is the thing I need in my brain to keep it from fucking going way out of whack, way out of line.
I've always had the
crazy shit.
I don't want to do this ever again feeling. I did that a lot,
Really?
and then I kept doing it, and now. And now it's I don't ever want to not do this.
That's fucking great. I had that with the one and only time I fucking did coke. I was like, never again with that. That was the worst fucking thing. And I meant it. That is horrifying.
Well,
that's
being
the opposite.
Yeah, being fucked up, like super fucked up, stoned is no fun at all. At all. I don't like that even a little bit. That
like being confused.
No good.
That's fucking funny. So he said, this is Eamonn, quote, I'm up against it. I've got 2 bleeds on the brain, and the doctors have told me I'm lucky to be alive. I have to give up the drink to have the operation, and I will. Only I can get myself out of this situation. Nobody else can do it except me. It's going to be my biggest fight, but I have so much going on in the future. I'm only 48 years old, and I have a lot of business interests to see to. I have a couple of obstacles to get around, but I promise you I will. The doctors have told me in no uncertain terms that I'm lucky to be alive because of my alcoholism. They say I could easily be dead. Yeah, I would say. He said, the doctors told me this has nothing to do with boxing. A different thing. He said, I was walking home and had just come around the corner of my street when I fell. I hit my head pretty bad and they had to glue it back together. Okay, I don't know if that's what they did. Mary said she knew something wasn't right when he came home because he, quote, he was talking a lot of shit. Yeah. He was getting all muddled up and forgetting my name. Interesting. We had a row when he didn't turn up at a protest he was supposed to be at the graves about Eamonn Jr.'s headstone. He just had no memory of the event. He was home, but there was no lights on. Jesus Christ. So, Eamonn went to the hospital, got an MRI, and they said he said I had loads of MRI scans during my career as a boxer, and they were always clear, otherwise you wouldn't be allowed to fight. When I saw the scan of this one, I shit myself because I knew I was in big trouble. I could see the 2 big clots even before the doctor gave me the news. Ooh. Man, so he spent a full week in the hospital having tests. Mary says he didn't appreciate how much trouble he was in at the time. He said he was fighting for his life, but he didn't know it. It was a terrible week. The kids couldn't believe how bad it was till they came to the hospital, and it was made even more difficult because it was the same hospital that Eamonn Jr. was when he died. Jesus Christ. Mary says she can't contemplate life without Eamonn. I guess that engagement didn't work out.
Evidently.
He said, wow, she said, we've had more than our share of ups and downs, but this is love unconditional. This is insane codependence is what this is.
This is not good, yeah.
No. Everyone is on edge because he's a walking time bomb. He needs to get off the drink or he's going to die. It's a race against time. Eamonn's memory is struggling as a result of the fall, and he reveals how he doesn't even remember being in the hospital. He said, I knew I was in hospital, but I don't remember anything about it.
Wow.
It's a mess. So anyway, it's Lost Soul of Eamonn Magee is the name of the book, by the way. Right. The Lost Soul of Eamonn Magee, written by Paul Gibson. That's the one we've, a lot of this episode's based on. Yeah. So he did that. They say, quote, who is this? Is this? Yeah, that's My Life's Not a Book, It's a Fucking Movie script. Yeah. And he also says, when we called his house, a Netflix crew were busy making a documentary about his life. Another scheme in the pipeline is a feature film about his life. He said, I've met with Jamie Dornan and the film producers, and it's going to happen. It's hard to imagine him playing me. They'll have to use a lot of makeup. And Eamonn says during the interview, Eamonn skins up a joint and says he needs the cannabis. Feel free to mention it. It's the only thing that keeps me sane. Put it this way. I'm much easier to handle when I'm on this stuff.
Yes.
So, yeah. Eamonn is quite the mess. He survives the blood clot.
Really?
You can find him on Twitter at Terminator Magee.
Wow.
Yeah, he's not verified, and he only has 674 followers. Somehow.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, it's fucking incredible. That's wild shit, man. Information on his career earnings is kind of hard to find because a lot of it was in like Ireland and whatever. Yeah. But safe to say he didn't have a pot to piss in 15 years ago, so he definitely doesn't have one now. Can't get enough of Eamonn. Well, you can get the Ricky Hatton versus Eamonn Magee signed boxing poster, signed by Ricky Hatton, not by Eamonn, for £125. You can get a boxing program, Shea Neary versus Eamonn Magee, £29.75. So that's a little cheaper, not autographed by Hatton. And you can get
Hatton's doing the heavy lifting of that price.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You can get a picture of him. I think it's him and Mary, honestly, or him and somebody. It's him and some fucking lady just standing there. I don't know who this is, but it's signed by him for $17 or £17.99. Yeah. And of course, The Lost Soul of Eamonn Magee by Paul Gibson. You can get that on paperback for about £25, and at the same time, you can get the Kindle version of that.
Oh,
too.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you're looking for that, you can do that. And shockingly enough, I saved this for the end just because it's so insane and I never thought it would happen. But I mean, this guy has been through so much. So much between the shootings, the army, his family, the drinking, the boxing, the legal, the everything like that. I mean, I kind of feel sorry for him after a minute, but not nearly as sorry as I feel for Eamonn Magee. Same spelling and everything. General manager at Westgate Cleaning Services in Bromley, England.
Wow.
Oh, and if that's not enough, Eamonn Magee, maritime law and marine insurance consultant at O'Callaghan Legal and approved mediator. Wow. None, if that's not enough. Eamonn Magee, senior accountant at Post Point in Ireland. So he's even in fucking Ireland.
Hysterical.
That is wild shit. Now, there's one of them, by the way, is committing crimes.
Oh?
Yeah, Eamonn Magee, who admitted possession of cocaine with intent to supply, will be allowed to continue his late-night job as a weekend DJ.
Oh, my God.
That's one of the Eamonn Magees there.
Where he sells more coke.
Where he sells more coke. So that, everybody, is Eamonn Magee after 5 parts. We got him, I think, there.
I think that's all of it. I don't think, how could there be more?
One of the craziest fucking just lives a person could lead. That's insane.
I feel so bad for his son, Jesus.
Yeah, it's fucking. I mean, you could go over that in an hour and a half and fucking, hit his arrests and his boxing record, but it doesn't. You need to know the backstory to find out why somebody's like this, especially. This is a totally different story here. So that's a lot.
Systemic right there.
That's I would say.
Sure. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. And genetic all mixed up into one. If you enjoy that story and enjoyed the whole series and just enjoy the show in general, get on whatever app you're listening on and give us 5 stars. It really, really just helps a ton. It helps drive the show up the charts. It's really a big deal. So thank you for doing that. Yeah. You may also want to head over to shutupandgivememurder.com to check out all the shit there. We got every bit of merchandise you could want, from skateboards to shower curtains. We got it all, and that's for everything. Small Town Murder, Your Stupid Opinions, and Crime and Sports, which you should listen to all 3 shows, obviously. Follow us at Crime and Sports, wherever you follow shit like that. Do that. Definitely, absolutely get Patreon. That's what you need. Patreon.com/CrimeInSports is where you get all of the bonus material, and there's a shitload of it. Anybody, hundreds and hundreds of back episodes, and anybody who's $5 a month or above, as soon as you subscribe, you're going to get access to all of those episodes to binge on, and new ones every other week. One crime and sports, one small town murder, and you just get it all. Whatever we put out, it's all yours. This week we're going to talk about, for crime and sports, I'm dropping shit on myself here. We're going to talk about the Liver King. Not only the documentary, but some background on this guy and some kind of weird real-life wrestling character. And the weird part is, up until very recently, I thought he was dead.
Really?
I just assumed he was dead.
Yeah?
Yeah. He lives like a fucking idiot. How's he alive? You know, I thought he was just assumed, oh, yeah, that idiot died. He livered himself to death.
Yeah, doing a lot of things.
All those steroids, but we'll talk about that and more and everything else. So that's patreon.com/crimeinsports. And you get a shout out.
You bet.
At the end of the show, which is right now. Jimmy, hit me with the names of some of the most wonderful goddamn people we could possibly hope to exist on this earth. Hit me with them right fucking now.
This week's executive producers are Margaret Spuchaka. I don't know if that's real. Possibly. Claude Cavallo. Rena Sanja, Manja's wife. She's a doctor now.
Congrats.
Good for you, Rena. I don't know how to say his name. I don't know how to say yours. It may
An
be
Indian
Sangha.
doctor. Who would have thought?
It may be Sanja.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. You're a
You
doctor.
never see an Indian doctor, so that's shocking, obviously. Congratulations. Good
Reese
for you.
Probin, Gary Howard, Coach Victor Jr., Margarita Miller in Israel, thinking about
Thanks,
you
Gary.
and your fam. Hang in there, Margarita. Jesus Christ.
Shit.
Thank you so
Hang-
much for
hang
everything. Jamie Kodrovich, Allie Deutsch. Allie, she's terrific. Alpaca Lips. I'm not calling Allie that. That's somebody's name. Gunther Buto. Stephen Harding. Buddy LaRosa. Do you know who that is, James?
Does they have something to do with terrible pizza in Cincinnati?
It is the founder of the Terrible Pizza.
Oh, perfect. Good.
I think he loves us.
He can give us money, but not pizza. We definitely don't want the pizza.
I wonder if it's really him. If it is, he's 71 and he really gives a shit about this show.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
More than he gives a shit about that pizza.
Yeah, put your efforts into the pizza for the people of Cincinnati. Don't worry about us
Matthew
anymore.
Johnston and other producers, thank you all so much for what
Thank
you're
you
doing.
so
That's
much.
so
You guys
nice.
are
Thank
fucking
you.
awesome. Thank you.
Really, it means a lot. Other producers this week are Peyton Meadows, Happy Hour checking in, and John, maybe it's Yan, New Mexico. That's a small town. Jan, New Mexico. I've never even heard of it. And before that, he was in Conroe, Texas. Didn't even know that. I just found that today.
He was in Cindy and Marcia before that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Janice Hill also, Michael Herman, Lacey Lou, or Iu, I don't know if that's an I or an L, Toby McClellan Taylor, Kyle, KCK, what is that, Kick? Kachak, Cock, Cack, I don't know.
Wow.
Cock,
That's a
don't be a
confusing one.
cock, Kyle.
Don't be a cock, yeah.
Kate,
What's going on?
Kate
That could go
Rodbro,
so many different directions.
depending on the vowel, Megan Schultz, Grace Ann Sullivan, Joanna Zuska, Lauren Rhodes, hey Lauren, Just Lisa, Brittany Santos with no last name, that could be the same person, I'm not sure, Laura Hughes, Jennifer Klepacki, Shayna with no last name, Soph Bree, Joshua Roderick, Sarah Binning, Cassidy Chance, Jacob Belvery, not Beverly, it's literally
Belvery.
He spelled it twice, so that's his last name.
That's
Angela Gore, Simon Spindle or Spindell, Lynn Cavallo, Travis Paulson, Adam Mianowski, Kelsey Green, Libby 43, Victoria Sweet, Nathan Delmer, Alicia B, Joker with no last name, Cindy Hudson, Trisha Baker, Paul Lockwood, Rachel Howell, Missy Brazovich, Joanna Wilk, Jason Rebolts, Trisha Oviat, Melinda Lambert, Crystal Dice, Rebecca with no last name, April Hartley, Squire motherfucking Boone, Dave Garcia, Teresa Savage, Davina Marshik, Joshua Cubizny, Kyle Swan, Samantha Knopfs, Evolution Training Center LLC. I don't know where it is. Keisha Childress, Lloyd Keeler. It exists. Drew B. Cheyenne Duffany, Josie, Jose Azamas, Robert Masek, Cole with no last name, Monica A, John Canavan, Cherie Chance, Elizabeth Potts, Jay Bow, Gina Faby, Catherine Neal, Angela Bowles, Che with no last name, Chloe Blackburn, Hannah Henderson, Tara Lee, Erica Floyd, Julie Godot, G. Porter, Chelsea Marshall, Gordon Laws. Oh boy, why is this a palindrome? W-O-O-I-L-I-O-O-W. Jesse
is that a town in
Boyer.
Australia?
Doesn't make any sense. Rachel Adamchick, a damn chick.
A damn
Samantha
chick.
K. Decode Basden. Like Basil 40. That's not, I don't know what. Decode? Is that a real name? Decody? Is it?
Might be. I mean,
Aaron McCall Odell. Ashley
you can name your kid
Myers.
anything you want.
Abby K. Samantha Wynn. Kate Bott. Susan Clark. Whitney Hansen. Danielle. Nope, that's Daniel Sizemore. Rebecca Combs. Amy Armstrong. Maggie Mays Lindquist. Bree Carr. Yael Cohen. Twice. He has 2 patrons. Or she.
Wow.
Yael? I don't know if that. I don't know the fucking gender of that, but thank you. You're the best. Megan Merstock, Tyler Jackson, Julie Thornton, Shell with no last name, Suzanne with no last name, Bloody Josephine, Brandon, the flight nurse, Sean Pay, Kyra Ben Lulu, Kathleen with no last name, Benjamin White, Athena with no last name, Clay Barton, Karen with no last name, Kayala Graham, or Kayla, maybe. Marcy Stitt, Michelle Heiss, Katie, what is that? Kinlaw, Julia Warwick, yeah, it is. That's right. I nailed it. All right, moving on. Adrian Brandt, Casey Haneberg, Patricia Cunningham, Leanne Wenbon, Price, Grant Gibb, PJE, Amber with no last name, Meat Tractor, that's gross, Charisse Gardner, Nick Rubble. Oh, just Rubble. Ruble. Maybe Ruble. Katie Terry. Dr. Catherine Fry. If she's a doctor, we'll let her know. Caitlin Palmer. Stephanie James. Julia Gulia. There she is. Christmas with no last name. Sherry Strutz. Shannon Sapolich. Michael Thompson. Carissa with no last name. Levi Sanders. Jessica with no last name. Cassie Thompson. Rhonda Crawford. Jack Thomas. Bree with no last name. Patrick Edwards. Jason Pappas. Erica Bosley. Mark Hughes. Morgan Terensky. Frankie Montpetit. S. Salvatado, Annie Mouse, Michelle Thompson, Casey S. Nichols with no last name, Sam Hodges, Katie Marlowe, K.O. This show brought to you by the letter K and O. This letter brought to you by the shows K and O. Jenna Barger, Rooney Gleason, Lyle with no last name, Christian Leisinger, Elizabeth Spanowski, Debbie Chilvers, Ashley Makowski, Pod Addicted 17, Heather with no last name, Amanda Malloy, Sage Quick, Sam Gosling, Eveline Pateau, Hannah with no last name, Jessica Shelton, Larissa Bourgeois, Sarah Strutz, Heather Heyer, Kathy with no last name, Kathleen Hall, Stephanie Fitzmaurice, Patrice, Graham Harden, Bryn Spence, Amber Jackson, Jen with no last name, ML.
Crushing it today on these
Kim,
names, man.
Oh, this
You're
is a fucking torturous pain.
You're doing it, though.
Fucking shit. Kim Lenz, I'd rather be waterboard. I'd rather have each pube ripped out one by one. Mark Murray, Dawn Tassell, Stacy Martinez, Deanne Waddy, Alexandra Founts, Matthew LOL, Marla Carlisle, Jessica, nope, that's Christine. What? Widner. Oh, there's Jessica.
Oh, there's
Leisure. Shay with no last name. Robin Thayat, Allie Dix. Oh, boy, that's tough.
Oh.
Heather Jameson, Marcy Crow, Kathy Ayers, Leah Ruggiero, Zhao Figueredo, Joe Swanner, Steve Rodriguez, Dacer 66, Jamie White, Chloe Wiggins, Deanna with no last name, Megan and Dave Jensen, Julia Dracia, Robert Bowden, Morgan Hill, hey Morgan, hello, Shakira Johnson, hello. Jason Davis, Bailey Gwenin, Claire Jackson, Juanita Harris, Joshua Asher, Luke Simon. Oh, I hope that's Simon. Dustin Seitz, Georgios Antonopoulos, Austin Rogers, David Patterson, Michael Reedner, Carolyn Seeley, Wicked Joker wrestling historian. Oh, he loves wrestling like you do. Hillary Smith, Jill Quinn, Rachel Branch, Sierra Bainey, Alice Watson, Missy Grubb Kane, Clark Gregorian, God damn it, Nathan Baxter, Michelle with no last name, Soul Magic, Pariah Me, Patrick with no last name, Brandon Washington, Nancy Koonsman, Ashley Miller, Henry Watson, Mayle, Sumida, Samida, Ashley McGarry, Chris K, Scotty Woodleaf, Jennifer Chambers, Jessica Pachena, Jessica with a
Not
Y.
Noika. Jessica.
Her brother,
That's nice.
not for me. Heather Hodgkins,
Her brother, maybe
that's her cousin, maybe a cousin.
Yeah.
Marley LeBeau, Amy Bennings, Stephen Harding, Casey Dunn, Viv with no last name, Katie Schmidt, Desi Marie, Jennifer Dorosky, Ann Johnson, Elizabeth Murphy, Joe Mitchell, Lexi Ivans, Rykin, Huntington, Eliza with no last name, also Eliza Kruger, probably the same person. We don't have.
Well, thank you.
Maybe
That many
Who knows?
Elizas?
It's possible. Sean Kuehl, Shahana Jod, good Lord, Jawed maybe.
Tough
Joe
one.
Parker, Christina Eldridge, James Williams, Sonia Bayer, Heather Lewis, and every patron that exists. Thank you all so much. You're the best.
You are the best, and we just want to say there are some people who donated in the past week and a half that because of the way we're not doing the early release, the way the schedules went, there was a lot. So if you didn't hear your name, you will hear it next week.
Right.
We just kind of had to cut the list a little bit, so half of our episodes aren't shout-outs. So it's thank you so much because there's some. So we appreciate
You deserve
that.
the credit,
Thank you.
and we want to do it. So give me some time.
Thank you so much, everybody. You fucking wonderful bastards. God damn it. We really appreciate all that you do for us. Honestly, it blows us away. So thank you for what you do for us. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for being here. And we got a lot more crazy stuff coming for you. You want to follow us on social media? Real easy. Head over to shutupandgivememurder.com. Drop down menus. You go wherever you want. And do that. Come back and keep hanging out with us live from the Crime and Sports Studios. We will see you next week.
Bye.